everybody. Welcome back to the Resleevables Ice Age Edition. I'm your host, Cedric Phillips, at Cedric A. Phillips on all of the things, and I am joined by, I don't really know if you like Ice Age or not, so I don't know if I should call you Ice Age's biggest fan, but you're here either way, Patrick Sullivan and Basic Mountain. How we feeling about this gigantic set?
Well, we'll start at the top level. It's pretty bad.
Okay.
And we'll go through why I believe that's the case. There's a variety of reasons.
There's a lot to go through.
But this might be the set that I purchased and opened the most sealed product of any Magic set of all time.
Okay.
So there is a lot of nostalgia for it. Play with these cards a ton. They were a huge part of my sort of introductory, LGS tournament experience, whatever you want to call that, sort of FNM style events.
Okay.
Heavily influenced by the set. So there's a lot of love there, but also it's objectively, in my opinion, not that great.
Booster pack. We each have our Ice Age booster packs for the upcoming Crack-a-Pack that we'll do for Ice Age. We're going to open one of these and someone's going to win the other one. So that'll be coming to you soon after this video is over. The research for this set took me a while. There's a lot going on. I didn't dye my hair the color of the Ice Age boosters on purpose. Just happens to be the way I was feeling as far as what color I wanted my hair to be. There's a lot of cards and a lot of stinky mechanics.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you like basic lands that are slightly different than your other basic lands, but not really?
Not really.
Do you like paying an increasing amount of mana for the same card over and over again?
Not really.
Well, that's all we got.
This is the set for you.
That's pretty much it. So if you're not down with those two things, probably not a whole lot here for you.
Well, there's a ton to get to with all of our sections of the show. So without further ado, let's kick things off like we always do with the facts of Ice Age. All right, everybody, we are here for the facts of Ice Age, of which there are many. This is probably my favorite facts section that I have done for this show so far. Now, there's some pretty general stuff, right? Ice Age is the first set in the Ice Age block. It's also the 6th Magic the Gathering expansion. It's notable for being the first standalone Magic the Gathering expansion. It could be played independently of other Magic products, and because of this, it was the first expansion to reprint all 5 basic lands, staple cards like Swords of Plowshares and Giant Growth, and popular older cards as well. Did you feel that when you were playing the set way back when?
Definitely. Something that I do appreciate about this set is there's a really good blend, if you were kind of playing at the time, of there's new stuff. It's a new set. There's new mechanics and new cards, but also some nuts and bolts stuff that you might have missed the first time, or things that were just good to have more than 4 copies of, like Source of Plowshares and Giant Growth, just cards you stuck into a lot of decks, was really useful. And the fact that you could buy a starter deck and just get a ton of basic lands. It was the most efficient way to get basic lands if you had missed out on Revise, which was the kind of last time that they had starter decks with basic lands included.
Ice Age was the first expansion to, and if you're with us for 4th edition, this is not new news to you. It was the first expansion to use the new white mana symbol from 4th edition. It was the first expansion to use the new tap symbol from 4th edition. And it also has a cycle of color hosing cards, which we will, of course, get to a little bit later on in the show because they still love color hosers at this stage of Magic's lifespan. Ice Age non-basic lands have unique ice-covered text box, so you get a little of that flavor and feel of everything being covered in snow and ice and things kind of decaying and dying. Even though Alpha was released with the name Magic the Gathering, it wasn't originally Richard Garfield's intent that this would always be the name. Now, I've mentioned this in other episodes, but it comes up again here. Garfield's original idea was that the name of the game would keep reinventing itself, and when Ice Age came out, it would be named Magic: Ice Age instead of Magic: The Gathering. However, this plan was scrapped for legal reasons and, more importantly, for recognizability, because at this point, Magic had been pretty well known as being Magic: The Gathering.
Yeah, you really want to be careful about introducing anything that could convince someone or suggest even that they're buying the wrong product, that things are not compatible. We're still going back. You look at Fallen Empires and it still says on the booster, you need Magic: The Gathering to play, which is sort of confusing and makes you feel like, well, am I not supposed to buy this? Whatever. And Magic very quickly moved away from any of that confusion. So this is, some of it is a brand thing. Some of it is, well, Magic the Gathering is really popular. It's known, we should lean into that. But also doing the different names and expansions and subsets of Magic could convince or persuade or suggest to someone that they're buying the wrong thing, which is definitely something you don't want to do.
I'm just glad that we have moved fully away from, hey, can we do different card backs or silverboard or any of that stuff? Like the very beginning, where it's like, we're going to change it every time. That's just not even a question anymore.
Yeah. Just the one person who just raised their hand in every meeting is like, I have another idea for how to make the sets not play together.
Yeah. Yes.
Finally, that person was let go or moved to a different department.
Yeah.
And we just accept that Magic the Gathering is the game that we are making. And that is the game we are going to continue to make for the rest of the time.
And we are still doing that today, which is fantastic. Ice Age contains 383 black bordered cards. Now, again, if you're with us for 4th edition, you know that they decided to change things up then into having the same number of rares, uncommons, and commons. So for Ice Age, that fantastic number is 121. Rares, uncommons, and commons, and then 20 basic lands. Ice Age was released in June 1995. It did not have a fixed print run like other sets, but it has been estimated to be 500 million cards. It was available from June 95 until February 1996, and it did not really slow down in availability until the end of 1996. Cards were sold in 60 card starter decks and 15 card boosters. Ice Age was the last set to have 10 starter decks in a box, and it was the first expansion to have boosters with foil wrappers and artwork. So, during 4th edition, you misunderstood the game of I was going to show you the artwork and you could guess what it was. That's okay. We can correct ourselves now. Do you think you can name any of the 5 Magic cards that are on the artwork, like the 5 Magic artwork that are on the booster packs for Ice Age?
I think I can name 2.
All right.
Scaled Worm.
That is correct.
Polar Kraken.
No.
Oh, God.
Mm-hmm.
Kageldorn Scout.
No.
I'm gonna fire off one more guess and then I'm gonna move on with my life here.
Okay.
Oath of Limdul.
No.
Okay.
Do you want to check the pack that you have on you?
No.
Respect.
Cheating.
Okay. Jester's Cap.
Of course.
You're gonna get this response a lot. Dire Wolves.
Okay.
Scaled Worm. Ding. Pygmy Allosaurus. And Carplusian Yeti.
Okay.
Okay, so where's your booster pack? I want to know what's on yours. What you got? You got uh-oh. We might have a discrepancy here. There's a chance the notes might be wrong. That might be the Yeti.
This is not Carplusian Yeti.
You don't think so?
I played with Carplusian Yeti a lot. This is not a Carplusian Yeti.
Maybe it's a piece of the Carplusian. This is awkward.
No.
You know,
It's not. That's not Carplusian Yeti. That's not Carplusian Yeti.
All right, I think he's right. This is not Carplusian Yeti. I'm going to go back and take a look. We're not going to edit this out.
No, of course.
Scaled Worm's right.
Yeah.
Got that for sure. I have no idea. Do you know what card this is?
No.
No? Okay. Good talk.
This is not a Yeti.
Well, no, I agree that is not a Yeti. But hold on, I'm doing a Google search now.
You're looking up Carplusian Yeti?
I am.
Okay.
Because I'm thinking that maybe it might be a piece of the... Yes, it is a piece of the artwork of Carplusian Yeti.
This is a really weird place to center it. Wow, I'm embarrassed.
You didn't do anything wrong. It doesn't look like a Yeti.
I know.
Maybe it's a piece of the Carplusian. This is
No. It's not. That's not
Carplusian
Yeti. That's not Carplusian Yeti. I should have remembered that was part of the art, I guess.
Okay, so now Carplusian Yeti is like probably between us and this booster pack. There's nothing Yeti adjacent on that booster pack.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's technically correct, but it didn't feel right. Anyway, it was the first expansion was Ice Age that was released in French, German, Portuguese, and Spanish. Thank you. It was also the first set to have a pre-release tournament in Toronto from June 2nd to the 4th in 1995. And apparently, which I did not know about this until the pre-show meeting, you know things about this tournament.
Yeah. The reason that I know, the winner of this tournament is David Humphreys.
The Hump.
Who is now a Senior, I don't exactly know his title, but senior level game designer at Wizards of the Coast or principal level, set lead for a number of sets, including most recently March of the Machine.
Yeah.
Prior to working at Wizards of the Coast, Dave had one of the most celebrated competitive careers in Magic the Gathering. Part of the first team that won a Team Pro Tour.
Okay.
YMG.
Okay.
Variety of Pro Tour top 8s and Nationals top 8s. Hall of Fame career. I had the pleasure of working with Dave when I got my foot in the door in the game design industry back in 2003, 2004.
Okay.
He was essentially, I wouldn't say that he was my first boss, but he was the development lead on Versus System when I was a junior developer working on it.
Okay.
So not necessarily a manager in the HR sense, but he and I was working underneath him and learning from him.
Okay.
You would think that a player with Dave's resume would have more to talk about with regards to Pro Tours and Masters and Nationals. But the tournament that he recalled most fondly and brought up most often was his victory at the Ice Age pre-release.
Really?
Yes. He talked about that tournament all the time. I think he mentioned he still has, I don't know if he got like a trophy or like a jean jacket or something, but he got something from that event.
Okay.
I want Dave to be able to take this up. Anyone who's working over at Wizards, show this to Dave if Dave doesn't watch the show, and ask him if we can get some more information about what this tournament was like, what the prizes were. Does he have any of the memorabilia left with it? Because Dave mentioned this tournament win more often than any of his Pro Tour, National, Masters finishes combined when he and I worked together and hung out pretty frequently.
All right. I did not know this was that important.
Yeah, it's a funny thing because often when we're going through these early sets, there's little bits of lore that I know because I'm like a student of this stuff.
Yep.
So kind of surprise you with like, oh, I actually kind of know something about this tournament or this card set or whatever. This information I have, not because I'm a student of history, but because Dave talked about that tournament several times. So hopefully Dave will bless us all with a little bit of more information, background, and recollection of that tournament after this airs, and maybe if he gets an opportunity to see it.
Well, what I say is be proud of your accomplishments. And clearly he is.
Yeah.
Which is good.
Yeah. Good for him.
Let's go to the Ice Age set symbol, which is Snowflake. And then let's talk about who this set was designed and developed by. Now you've heard this name of folks before: Scaphalias, Jim Lynn, Chris Page, Dave Petty, but you've never heard of them referred to as the East Coast playtesters. Your boy, that's me. We did some digging, clicked some links a couple weekends ago to learn more about what the heck this is. So this group of four, as I've mentioned, they designed Antiquities along with Joel Mick, Fallen Empires, Ice Age, and the soon-to-be reviewed by us Alliances. They're all friends of Richard Garfield. They lived in Philadelphia. They playtested Alpha alongside Richard. And then Scaff ended up being the executive vice president at Wizards of the Coast. During that time, he managed to be the brand manager of Magic, oversee organized play, and create the Pro Tour. So thanks, Scaff, for everything you did.
Did it all.
Yeah, did a lot to help Magic go from small game to the thing that I have loved probably the most in my life as far as a hobby is concerned. So here's some details about the East Coast playtesters. They believed that they could create a more interesting set. They were quickly asked by Richard Garfield to create a Magic expansion, and Chris Page was assigned to join the team. At the time, designers were given the freedom to either compose their sets entirely out of new cards or to use the commons from Alpha and create only new uncommons and rares. The Ice Age group, who saw themselves as improving on Alpha, chose to reuse many staple cards. The design goals are best described by Scaphalias himself. Quote, "We wanted a set where flying was special, not just an extra word tacked on to every played creature. We wanted a set where the idea that a color was short on creatures meant something. We wanted a set where the allied colors were played more often with each other than enemy colors were. We wanted strategy and simple creature combat as well as flashy enchantments that gave you cards for life. Necropotence. We wanted games to last longer. When we started the design of the set, the Magic environment was too fast due to the unlimited card restrictions and have more turnabouts." End quote. After Alpha was published, it was quickly realized that the players were ravenous for new cards and would not, at the time, stomach reprints of commons they had already been seen. The presence of the reprinted commons would lead to the delayed release and the redesign of Ice Age. This was both good and bad for the set. More cards were created. It's a very large set, some of which were slated to replace reprints, and more time was available to test those cards. Unfortunately, last-minute untested additions to improve the strength of the expansion's themes added complications to the cards and seemed clunky. Snow-covered lands were added late to improve the environmental theme, which could explain why the snow-covered mechanic was so poorly developed. We're going to get to that a little bit later in the show, because they're terrible. While the common reprints delayed the release of Ice Age, the timing for a standalone expansion was probably fortuitous, as it took time for WotC to collect and analyze feedback from the players and develop a plan for the long-term survival of the game. The idea of regularly recreating Magic is fundamental to the survival of the game. Obviously, new set comes in, cards rotate out, etc., things that we're all very much used to, of which the Ice Age development team had to argue. The standalone style of this expansion was hotly debated at the time, but in the end proved to be a solid idea and important to the game, and proved that players would eventually accept some reprints in the evolving game, which is still true today. So they didn't get everything right, did the East Coast playtesters, but they got some things right, which are still resonating in 2023 as we record this show. Your thoughts on what you've just learned?
Whoa. There's a lot in that Scaff Elias little quote there.
Okay.
That does sound like, yeah, there's parts of the game we wanted to make way worse. No reason.
Sure.
All right, fine, whatever. I'm not going to unpack all of that. And it's interesting to me to think like Magic at that point was defined too much by the games being fast.
Yeah.
To the extent they were fast, it was combo fast. It was mana fast. It wasn't wild Mikado fast.
Sure.
So it's interesting to think about what that actually means in practice. I think something that this set touches on and shows proof of concept for some level of reprints, new art.
Okay.
That way, one, you're preserving the collectability or specialness, whatever you want to call it, of the previous cards. And two, it's not lazy. You're showing Source of Plowshare, Disenchant, Counterspell, all the Dark Ritual, reimagined for this specific world. And that's a really, really cool thing. I think the art for Giant Growth is a little bit odd because a Dragonfly is a little bit dissonant with an Ice Age themed set, but it is still cool to see a new twist on, the giant rodent that's so iconic from Alpha.
Yep.
So there was definitely still some level of pushback on the notion of reprints in general. People wanted new cards. There weren't nearly as many individual designs in the game as there is today. And so there was a segment of the player base that looked at reprints and were frustrated by them. Certainly more than that's the case nowadays. But the new art, the new flavor text did a lot to make it feel like at least they tried to re-theme the thing, even if ultimately it's the same card functionally at the end of the day.
They took some swings. And it's interesting to me that like this is kind of, it's weird to say it's like this rogue group of playtesters, but it feels like this rogue group of playtesters that are outside of the building because they're in Philadelphia. And I've made jokes in the previous show of like the playtesting like over the phone and all this other stuff. But at the end of the day, these four individuals of the East Coast playtesters, look, they had a really heavy impact on Magic. And then ultimately at the end of the day, Scaff ended up working in the building as the vice president of WotC. And, we've seen further impact from Jim Lynn, Chris Page, and Dave Petty. And again, they designed Antiquities, Fallen Empires, Ice Age, and then the soon to be reviewed by us Alliances. So these gents had some real strong thoughts on what Magic could and should be, and not all of it is correct, but I mean, some of it's still happening.
Definitely.
Which is pretty cool, I think, the thing I love about doing the show is like you see the ideas that didn't work and you can kind of understand why they thought they should do them. And now that we've been around for so long, it's like, I can understand why you should do that and then why it didn't work. And then you can also see some ideas that like, I don't know, like I can't imagine like pitching like organized play in the Pro Tour and someone just going like, sure.
It's a really, really cool idea.
Yeah, like that's just like kind of bonkers to me, not just because of the state where organized play and the Pro Tour lives right now, but just kind of like someone's just like, we should have tournaments. And there should be like really big tournaments that people have to qualify for and everything else. And it's not the same system, of course, as it has been in 2010, all the other stuff. And I can't wait till we get to like the first Pro Tour and everything. But just to have that idea and still have it be around 30-ish years later, or the idea that, hey, like we need to bring in new cards so the game is ever changing and ever like developing and always feeling new. Like, instead of just going like, let's just do a ton of reprints and then we'll introduce like 20 new cards every set and we'll be fine. Like, it's pretty great.
Yeah. And I want to step back and sort of defend Scaff's quote a little bit, because some of it is a place and time sort of a thing. The two bits that jump out at me as sort of, furrowing my brow a little bit is, we want the color imbalance for creatures to matter, and we don't want flying to be all over the place.
Okay.
I think those are actually fine goals if you're orienting Magic solely around constructed, which was the case at the time. Whether or not we're talking competitive or sort of casual constructed, people were sort of building decks. The issue with what Scaff is describing is it makes limited non-functional.
Okay.
But we're talking about a time before limited was really a thing. Once you're talking about people playing competitive decks out of low rarity pools and booster draft and seal deck, it's like, okay, it's actually not functional for blue, green, and white to have no way to remove a creature.
Sure.
It's actually plays pretty bad for all the games to bog down into a stalemate, and then I have a 3/3 flyer and I hit you 7 times with it. That is a lot of what limited play looked like in the late 90s and early 2000s. I played competitively limited in those sets. And frankly, even into your competitive starting points, I would say that was still too much of the experience.
Okay.
It does come at the expense of the color pie, for sure, to have it being a little bit more muddled. And yeah, white has Oblivion Rings and green has Fight and blue has tap a creature and it doesn't untap. And all these things are different from removal, but they do sort of blur the lines a little bit at the end of the day. But that's to make limited work.
Yep.
You need to have a certain amount of that at a baseline. So not every seal deck starts with red or black.
Yeah, sure.
So what Scav is saying sounds really weird by the standards of today, but keep in mind that this was all being mapped out before the notion of limited and sealed deck was really a thing. And if you only cared about Magic through the lens of constructed, whether that means commander, competitive, casual, whatever, I think what Scaff's saying is totally reasonable. It's just limited that makes it not a non-starter.
Gotcha. Well, everyone, those are the facts of Ice Age. Done and dusted. We're taking a short break. When we come back, we are diving into the flavor and the storyline of Ice Age. It's chilly out there. Be right back. All right, everybody, we are back for the flavor, the storyline, the lore of Ice Age. Now, as you know, I'm no lore expert. I do some digging around the internet and try to find what I can. And I found some notes here on Ice Age. At some point in this show, we're probably going to hire a lore correspondent. So for those of you who are really big into flavor and storyline stuff,
A lore respondent.
Nailed it!
Dude, crushed it. It's not going to be him, by the way.
No.
Ice Age, like the earlier sets that took place on Dominaria, occurred on the continent of Terrasare. That's what I've gone with before, so I'm going to do that again, where the Brothers' War had taken place. This was ended with the Silex Blast, which we've mentioned over multiple episodes, which was powerful enough to alter the planet's climate. Could you imagine altering the planet's climate?
That seems impossible. Yeah.
No way. The slow creep of glaciers, the mighty gale of blizzards, and the numbing cold of lumpy winters have all combined to make Dominaria a dark and frigid world. All the major civilizations of Terrasare had been destroyed by either war or the ice. New cultures arose on the ice, fighting bitterly for survival, which that sounds like something that would actually happen. But when the necromancer Limdul unleashed a horde of undead, old enemies were forced to work together or be overwhelmed. Limdul was a powerful necromancer who terrorized Terrasare during the Ice Age. The fragment of his essence contained within the ring of Marisil, hope I'm saying that right, is known as the Raven Man, which is a magic card. So that's kind of cool as far as continuity is concerned. And I have these gigantic paragraphs about Limdul that I'm not going to read because that would bore everyone here. But suffice to say that Limdul is a relevant character in Magic. I would argue that over our time of doing this show, I think this is episode 11. I really can't remember. Limdul is like the first fleshed out character that we've run into. Does that sound right?
I would say the first unambiguous villain.
Okay.
Mishra and Urza, they're in conflict.
Yes.
But it's not really clear if there's the sense of good guy versus bad guy.
Yes.
It just seems like there's a war going on. And there are demons and liches, but they're kind of just autonomous entities. They're not commanding legions of bad people.
Okay.
Limdul is the first. Yeah, the name's all over the place. There's a tone to it. You know, this is a very, I mean, there are shades of sort of the Game of Thrones plot line in what's being described here.
That's what I was thinking too.
And Limdul acting as the big bad of that.
Now, in this particular set, you mentioned Mishra and Urza, and those characters have cards associated with them insofar as like there's Mishra's War Machine and the Factory, and there's Urza's Power Plant and Tower and stuff. If you go through the set list here of Ice Age, you're going to run into Limdul's Cohort and Legions of Limdul, and what's that busted gold card? Limdul's Vault. That sounds right to me. Yeah. Okay. I'm looking through the set list on Scryfall right now. And so what you're finding are cards that actually do involve Limdul. Now, again, I could go over for you a very long thing about his power and his enemies and Chandalar and Joda and Jaya Ballard and a bunch of characters that are actually in the game right now. But I think most importantly, my biggest takeaway from this is, okay, we keep mentioning the Silex Blast that froze the world over. Okay, great. Now we've seen exactly what that is, right? Because we're in the Ice Age now. And now folks are kind of battling for survival, and Limdul is effective, like you mentioned, kind of our first big bad of Magic, which is kind of wild to think about.
And I think to back up for a moment that Limdul's Vault might have been in alliances.
Oh, I think
that's
right,
additional proof of concept insofar as this is a villain that spanned more than one set.
Okay.
They're actually trying to make a big bad storyline character. It's not just contained in Ice Age.
Yeah, you are right about that. But this is the first kind of real appearance of a big bad in Magic, and I think that's actually pretty rad.
Yeah.
Yeah. And now, as you look at Magic in 2023, it seems like every set or expansion has a big bad. And, you know, we had like the Nicol Bolas arc and a lot of stuff going on with Planeswalkers and Elspeth and the Eldrazi and everything, which has really breathed a lot of life into Magic. Right. Yeah. Because now people identify with particular characters, or, you know, I'm not great at the lore, obviously, but it's like, I think Gideon died and maybe Gideon's coming back, and like Garrick went away for a little while, and maybe Garrick is coming back or was cursed for a little while. Who knows? Like all that stuff. That is a thing that I don't think people cared about back then, as we're covering this set from like 95, but is a thing that people very clearly care about now in 2023.
Well, there wasn't the same level of continuous storytelling. Even when Magic got into blocks, it wasn't necessarily like you could see the story map out from the three sets. You know, if you look at Mirage, Visions, Weatherlight, sort of a complete block, and the Weatherlight is definitely a story beat, but Mirage and Visions aren't really building up to it much the same way.
Okay.
The storytelling is essentially nowadays, I would argue, is a lot more coherent and organized. Limdul and Limdul's army is definitely a presence in Ice Age. It creates a certain tone. But in terms of it advancing a storyline, we're really not there yet. That is more of a modern addition to Magic, of that sort of coherence in the storytelling, of trying to have a beginning, a climax, and an end.
Yep.
And this is a fine starting point. It does add something to the set, but the storytelling is not nearly as fleshed out as it is now.
So that's your flavor. That's your storyline. That's my best attempt at giving you some lore here from Ice Age. Now, a thing that I'm significantly better at is the mechanics of Ice Age, and they are not good. We're going to explain just how bad they are right after this. All right, everybody, it is time for the mechanics of Ice Age. And as I kind of teased at the end of the last section, and also a little bit during the facts as well, PU. These are, well, they're not particularly good. This guy over here is going to tell you why. Ice Age introduced cumulative upkeep and snowlands. then called snow-covered lands, to the game. Let's start with cumulative upkeep, shall we? It was a cost on permanence that increases with each turn. Used entirely as a disadvantage on cards with powerful and or game-changing effects in this expansion, of which there are many of them. I could name them all, but I'll just let you know that a card like Blizzard, Glacial Chasm, Illusions of Grandeur, Mystic Remora, Ritual of Subdual, Snowfall, Naked Singularity, among many others. What are your thoughts before we move on to snow-covered
All right,
lands?
so I'm not quite sure where to begin.
Okay.
So I will just kind of shoot from the hip a little bit about.
You do what you do.
Okay. So first of all, it's not fun.
That's true.
The design space is very limited
Okay.
because cheap cards with cumulative upkeep typically don't make very much sense. Certainly cheap creatures with cumulative upkeep. And so you're sort of constrained with what you could even do if you wanted to do this sort of thing. I think that it's a very weird mechanic for the set. This set seems like a really great opportunity to do something like fading or a countdown mechanic of some sort, because it conveys the sense of thawing.
Okay, sure.
This is working in the opposite direction.
Okay. Yep.
So there was an opportunity to do something here, sort of like cumulative upkeep, that could be fun, but you would have to do the opposite on both sides.
Okay.
With what this is. I also am, generally speaking, not a big fan of mechanics that are like, the majority of the game is managing this. Both players paying attention to it, both players tracking what's going on. There is something nice about the one nice thing about cumulative upkeep is because there's really nothing there and the costs stack. Cumulative upkeep is much more in the space of find a cumulative upkeep card you happen to like and play with it.
Okay.
And not find every card with cumulative upkeep and put it in your deck.
And play with as many as possible. Sure.
So there's at least that, but it is burdensome for both players. Limited design space, not fun at a baseline, and if anything, the opposite of a mechanic that would make sense for the world they're building.
Okay, so here's my question that I don't even know if you can answer. What is the most fun, but I'm going to change it to what is the most fun and or best cumulative upkeep card?
I think Jotun Grunts, or where the
2-mana 4/4.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you mean from this set?
No, just in general.
I think Jotun Grunts is the best execution.
Okay.
Because it is not just a drawback. It is something where both players have agency over what's going on with it. And it's something where even if it goes away, you feel like you got something for your money along the way.
Sure.
And the fact that it's balanced more around, even though it's 2 mana, and even though some amount of the time you do play it on turn 2, a lot of what's going on with it is, all right, turn 4, this is sick. Because both of our graveyards are kind of set up. I'm getting a really good deal for my 2 mana, and we're going to be able to keep this thing going for a couple turns.
Okay. Got it. All right, snow-covered lands is next. Oh,
but
boy.
last little bit on Jotun Grunt.
Sure.
It is also a drawback sometimes. It
Sure.
isn't just a straight upside.
Yeah.
Sometimes it just, you can't keep it going, or attacking your opponent's graveyard isn't the thing that the game is about, and it just goes away.
Yeah, and it's not effective then.
Or it's turn 2 and wow, do I wish I had any other 2-mana creature in my hand instead of this thing.
Yep.
So it's not fake. It's not just, oh yeah, this is all upside. You do feel the pain of the cumulative upkeep sometimes, but that's not the entire experience.
Now, let's dive into snow-covered lands. A cycle of basic lands that have the snow super type, which is meaningless by itself, but is referenced by other cards. Chris Page created these as a chance to make an extra set of lands that didn't have any special rules, to keep them from having the, quote, dual land problem, unquote, which is basically being better than basic lands, and not having the development resources at the time. The team, the East Coast playtesters, chose to balance the lands by making an equal amount of things that helped and hurt snow-covered lands. The team, the East Coast playtesters, considered these a failure and purposefully did not put any snow-covered land references in alliances, which we will get to soon. The few that exist, references to snow-covered lands, were put in by the development team, not by the East Coast playtesters. And it is worth noting that the snow-covered lands and everything that's around snow inspired the creation of the arcane spell type in Common Gobble Block, which was similarly not particularly Good. Okay. Heart's in the right place, I think. And when I think of snow, first person that comes to mind is Jim Davis. Okay. Because he would always play a snow covered mountains in his goblin deck. And it was like, why? He's like, why not? It's like, all right, I have no rebuttal, but okay. And then there are just some people who like to play with snow covered lands. Now, there have been sets where snow was a little, I guess I'm going to say like over push. Like, what was that stupid artifact? The Astrolabe.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Yeah, where it's just like you can only cast with snow mana, and then you filter snow mana into it to get any color. And like that thing also cantrips under in the battlefield. And it was just like very powerful, and then ended up getting banned. And then, the trip to Kaldheim, we saw some snow stuff. But for the most part, we haven't seen a ton of snow covered lands outside of people just going like, these are not basic lands, and I kind of want to play with these. So let's set all that aside. The team references and admits that this was a whiff. What are your thoughts?
Horrendous.
Okay.
Absolutely awful.
Okay.
So we're talking about it doesn't do anything on its own. It's only by referencing it do you get somewhere.
Yes.
So that's a really narrow pool of cards that can possibly work with these things. What can be fun about the all right, there's a really small subset of cards that work here, is sort of picking and choosing across the stuff what you want to build your deck around. You can't do that with these because your deck is full of basic lands.
Okay.
So it's not like you can build a 5-color snow deck and pick and choose all your favorite snow cards.
Sure.
Your deck is all basics.
Okay.
So it's insular, but it doesn't even work in the insular way.
Okay.
Second, these are basic lands.
Yep.
So you can't really punish snow because that involves punishing basic lands, which even though Magic has an appetite for doing at this place in time, they're quickly learning that alpha is way too heavy on it. They are moving away from it, and Magic continues to move away from it over time.
Yep.
But because they're basic lands, that also means that you can't really put a whole lot of upside on them because it's essentially free to play with these.
Yeah.
And the balancing mechanisms that they refer to here, like let's look at Icequake and Thermokarst.
Okay.
Right? Those are stone rains that if they stone rain a snow land, you gain 1 in the case of Thermokarst, and they take 1 in the case of Icequake.
Correct.
Okay.
Well done by you.
Most of the rate of that card is nested in Stone Rain. The notion that the +1, -1 is the inflection point on whether or not it's punishing snow or just a card that people are playing is really silly. And those are probably the two most of cards in Ice Age that have something of a tournament resume. Those are probably number 1 and number 2 in terms of referencing snow in a way that's positive or negative.
Okay.
And it sort of highlights how tough that space is to land, because the way that it gets over is it's just a card you can main deck. And if they happen to have a snow land, sure, it's a little bit better, but that's not really what the card is about.
Sure. That's not why you're playing the card.
Yeah. And that's the most successful version of it.
Okay.
The rest of this is just nonsense. So I think that, insular mechanics have a place, but making it specifically oriented around basic lands means that the find all the cool snow cards and trying to find the snow synergies is really not a thing. And the fact that it's just tacked on for free onto basic lands is means that making punishment for it and making bonuses for it is really, really hard. When Magic has actually leaned into this a little bit, like in Kaldheim, I would say for constructed purposes, it was pretty corny.
Okay.
And to the extent that snow lands have showed up in Magic, it's been basically because they're free and the enablers are too good, like Astrolabe, for example.
Yep.
There is taking advantage of the fact that you get to play with Island and Island with a different name in your deck, like in Gifts Ungiven packages.
Or like Field of the Dead decks.
Field of the Dead decks,
Yep.
exactly.
Okay.
Or it is Jim Davis going har. Snow covered mountain, man. Maybe I'm playing squared in my goblin deck.
Yeah, sure.
Awful.
That's our boy, by the way.
That is our boy.
We love
Shout out Jim Davis.
We love
but
Jim
come on.
Davis around here.
No one's believing that.
That's also true.
Yeah. Take that down the street. And it's worth noting that even when I was playing a lot of mono red burn and legacy, where in theory you would actually want to split mountain and snow-covered mountain because people play with predict. There's things that punish all cards of a certain name.
Sure.
Someone could city in the bottle you, whatever, when the rules were different. If you were strictly trying to play correctly, you should at the minimum split snow-covered and not. And I didn't even bother. I'm like, this is too corny. I'm not doing it.
No.
If I'm spewing off a fraction of a percent, that's fine. I'd rather live like that than be flipping through my old box of cards trying to find snow-covered mountains. I won't do that. And most people did not do that, even though in most spots it is technically correct to at least be playing half snow-covered lands, if not all.
All right, well, they do have a good thing that they did here. Not technically a named mechanic so much. This is where cantrips first showed up.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so cantrips did not and still does not use a keyword, but this is where it all began. Spells that, in addition to having a normal small effect, also replace itself with card draw. Cool. The typical formula for the mana cost of a cantrip was to add 2 to the cost of the effect, which was typically 1 colored mana for the typically small effect. Ice Age set the precedent of such spells drawing a card during the next upkeep. I think we like to call those slow trips in the business, if you have to give them a different name, which you don't, but we did sometimes. This was done because the developers were not sure if adding card drawing to simple spells would make them overpowered, and they chose to print a more conservative version of the ability. Delayed card drawing would continue on cantrips through visions when the delay was removed for being unnecessary. All right, so I like taking the safe approach.
Mm-hmm.
If your first go, you're not sure, and there's a way for you to make this style of card and be like, we're not sure how good this is, so let's just make it worse. Cool. We don't see slow trips nowadays at all, basically. I'm sure maybe there's somewhere, who knows? There's a lot of Magic cards that are coming out every single year, so I can't say that unequivocally, but here's what I know. Cantrips are very powerful. We know that because card advantage is very powerful. And so we see plenty of creatures that enter the battlefield, draw a card at like a specific rate, so on and so forth, right? And this is where it all began. And if you've been playing Magic for the past, I don't know, couple of years, I'm sure you've cast a cantrip in some form or fashion. So this might not even feel new to you, but back in Ice Age, it was new.
I really appreciate what's going on here. I think over time, it's basically not worth the tracking. That's actually the big strike.
Okay.
I don't mind so much the like quote unquote feel bad of having to wait a turn for your card. It's just that people forget the trigger all the time.
Yeah.
You look at Mishra's Bauble and like that thing gets missed constantly.
All the time.
And that's one of the most foundational cards of Modern. And even in competitive settings, it gets missed constantly.
Yeah.
So I think that's actually the biggest reason to eventually just go to cantrips. But I respect a lot of what's going on here. One is we do feel like we're playing with fire a little bit. Let's just be careful. And if it turns out that we have the room to get more aggressive with it and make the draw immediate, then we do that in the next set. Yep. And that can be an exciting thing. But for now, let's just start off being pretty conservative and let's see how it goes. Great. I really appreciate specifically waiting a turn to draw a card in this context, because to the extent that cantrips are going to be problematic, it's doing a bunch of game actions all in one turn. So the delay is not just an arbitrary drawback, although probably at the end of the day, that was the motivating factor, but it actually creates a bottleneck on the thing that you're scared about. You're not just going ponder and brainstorm and a cantrip, and doing some storm kill all in one turn, because you don't get the cards until the next turn. So it specifically speaks to the thing that could be risky about doing this. Third thing that I like about that, and I don't know if it was mentioned in anything that you were reading or whatever, but when you go back to that scaff quote and you know, there's this idea of we want the color pie to really matter. We want the strengths and weaknesses of the colors to matter. It makes sense to say, no, red doesn't get to cantrip. Green doesn't get a cantrip right away. You got to wait a turn. Blue is the card drawing color. Black, you pay life and you get your cards that way. Great. But if you're one of the colors that doesn't typically draw cards, yeah, you gotta wait a little bit.
Yeah.
I think things like you gotta wait a turn, or this color does it at instant speed, and the rest of the colors get to do it at sorcery speed. Examples. That actually does convey a lot of the color pie and makes colors feel stronger and weaker at certain things. And so it makes sense through that lens to say some of these colors that don't normally draw cards, they got to wait a turn on it. And I'm pretty sure that the cantrips don't show up very much in blue. If you go back and look at the
if
list.
you take a look at the set. So the first cantrip that I think of is like Portent.
Yeah.
Right, which I'm pretty sure is in this set.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah. So there's Porton right there. It's probably between us right now. The second cantrip that I think of is in green, which is Pike Knight.
Yeah.
Okay. The rest I can't say. And actually, draw a card at the beginning of the upkeep of it. Okay, so Pike Knight was delayed. Okay, so because they're all delayed. I for some reason I thought Pike Knight was just enter the battlefield, draw a card, but no, they didn't do that. Okay, sure. I'd have to dig through the set.
And I also really like doing cantrips in a set that has brainstorm.
Okay.
It's like blue does this.
Yep.
Other colors, you can do a little bit of it, but it's not nearly as powerful. And the card is not nearly about manipulating your hand as it is as doing something kind of for free, but paying extra mana for the output.
Sure. Gravebind. Target creature cannot regenerate this turn. What a dealer that card is. Draw a card at the beginning of the next turn's upkeep. It's kind of spread out, it seems like. Yeah. So I don't have the list on my notes of all the cantrips, but I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
Which I think they got this right. Even though it's underpowered and they changed it over time, they changed it pretty quickly. I like the conservative approach here a ton.
I think that if you go back to 1995, 1996 and you had MTG Arena and Magic Online and just these digital clients, I think it's possible this execution would have stuck around.
Okay.
Digital solves all the downside.
That's true.
It resolves itself.
Yep.
It's just in paper settings where it's, the next upkeep is just an awkward time to pause and do something. And there's also a little bit of design space that gets cobbled out by having the slow trips. It's not just a drawback. When you look at miracles, it's like, yeah, it's often hard to draw a card on my opponent's turn.
That's why people played Porton.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
So it's not even like it's just a drawback. Over time in the larger card pool, it's actually kind of cool that this draws a card next turn instead of right now because there's some synergy involved. Cool.
Also, one last thing I'll say about this is if you come in heavy on this, which cantrips just as we know them, which is just draw a card right away, you can't really walk it back.
Yeah,
right? You can't go like, in the next set, there's slow trips. People are like, well, this sucks. So much worse.
Something that I always appreciate when designers have the confidence in what they're doing to say, you know what we're going to do? We're going to keep making sets. We don't have to just, try to shoot our strongest shot every single time. If we've got space to breathe, great. That's excitement for a future set. And if we end up not having space to breathe, thank goodness we didn't overshoot our shot.
Yeah.
That's a lot of discipline that is oftentimes hard for designers to avail themselves of. You feel the pressure all the time of, well, can we get the most powerful version of this out the door? How can we make the strongest, most all upside version work? And it takes a lot of discipline and confidence to say, no, we don't need to do that. Do that later if we can, but why start there?
Two other mechanics to go over really quickly here. Legendary permanents. Ice Age further explored legendary permanents by introducing monocolored legendary creatures, and then allied color cooperation, cards of one color that required or were improved by the use of allied color mana, which we'll probably go over more over the course of this show. But now it is game time, everyone. The following creature types, are introduced in Ice Age. So I'm going to name the creature type, and we're going to see if Patrick can name the card. Counter on the screen if you can. Wonderful editor John. Sound effects, I'm sure, ready to rock and roll. Are you ready?
Yeah.
All right. Aurochs.
That
is correct. Barbarians. Hold on. There are two.
Balduvian Barbarian?
That's one.
And I don't have the second one.
Barbarian Guides.
Yeah, I don't have that.
All right. Blinking Spirit, later changed to Spirit.
Blinking Spirit.
That is correct. Brownie, later changed to Oof.
Oof.
Incorrect.
Brown Oof?
Nope.
Collector Oof?
Nope. Brownie.
What?
The creature type was Brownie. Is later changed to Oof. Brownie might be in the card name.
I know the art. Just skip this one.
All right, Finhorn Brownie.
Finhorn. Okay.
Right. Centaur.
Nope.
Centaur Archer.
Okay.
Is this set a blind spot for you or no?
Well, I never played with like by the time we got to this point in my life as a Magic player, I had enough of sort of the staple cards.
Okay.
Like 4 copies of Source of Plowshare and Lightning Bolt and Counterspell and all that kind of stuff. So my decks were at a certain baseline of power Where, oh, another gray ogre that's like maybe sometimes could be a 2/3 if it's like untapped or blocking a black creature or whatever. Sure. I didn't have to play with those cards anymore. And so they got ignored.
Okay.
This was at the time where basically I'd leveled up too far for a lot of these cards.
Too good for the game.
Yeah.
Dead. Later changed to zombie.
Oh, Limdul's dead?
Close.
Okay.
Kajoran dead.
Jordan dead.
All right. Dinosaur.
Pygmy-Allosaur.
Yeah. All right. We got one. Dog. There's no way you're gonna get this.
Dog.
Wolf.
I don't have it.
Snowhound.
Okay. Oh, yeah.
Okay. Dryad.
No.
Rhyme Dryad.
Is that really the first Dryad? Shinoran Dryad is not a Dryad?
Which one?
Shinoran Dryad from Alpha?
Checking the tape. It's probably between us. Hold on. Scryfall Alpha.
This counts as getting 2 right. If I just
what color is that Dryad? Green?
Green.
Is that just the 1/1 flyer?
1/1 Forest Walk.
Oh, 1/1 Forest Walk. Okay, here we go.
You try to trick me and I call you out correctly.
It was a nymph. Yeah.
Fair enough.
Yeah, because of course it was. All right. Moving on. Erne, ERNE, later changed to bird.
No.
Silver Ernie or Silver Ern. I don't know how that word's pronounced.
Yeah.
Fiend, later changed to horror.
Is it Fiend of what's his name?
It's not. It's not that.
All right, whatever.
Morphine.
Morphine.
Not to be confused with morphine. Foxes.
Arctic foxes.
All right, got one. Frost Beast. It's in the name.
I don't have it.
Kajoran Frost Beast.
Okay.
How do you pronounce that? Keldorn. Oh, it's Keldorn. The J is silent. Okay, Keldorn. Goat.
Mountain goat.
There he is. Gorilla Pack, later changed to ape.
It's a gorilla pack?
That's correct. I'm going to get out my pronunciation here. Hold on. What are you laughing at?
This is a very funny list of cards.
Okay. I have a pronunciation guide for some of the cards that are harder to say in this set. So, if you'll bear with me, let's go and load this baby up. Hipparion.
I don't know.
Yes, you do.
It's a Hipparion.
That's correct. Is later changed to horse. Okay. Illusion. I think you'll get this one.
Is it illusionary spirits, phantasmal? It's the 4/4 cumulative upkeep flyer. I'm almost sure.
Okay, let me check the tape here. It is a 4/4 cumulative upkeep. I kind of want to give it to you, but it's illusionary forces.
Illusionary forces.
Okay, so you were right about that. Infernal Denizen, later changed to demon.
Infernal Denizen?
That is correct. Insects.
Yavimaya ants?
That is incorrect. Flow of maggots.
I think Yavimaya ants might be in alliances.
Kraken.
Polar Kraken.
It's time to get it out. It's time. I've waited long enough.
Oh, yeah.
Bang. I'm going to take it to my camera. Hopefully this is a good view for our editor.
Whew.
All right, kids. This is the card that got me started on Magic. My best friend in elementary school, John Cross, showed me this card on the school bus. We used to just play Mega Man X together a bunch. But then he showed me this. Life over.
Yeah.
Hooked. Ever since. Old P. I bought this online for this episode of this show. $2.
What a deal.
Gonna keep that forever. Lemur, later changed to Spirit.
I belong to the list Lemur.
That is correct. Lurgoyf.
Lurgoyf.
Mage, later changed to Wizard. I want you to get this, but you're not going to.
Zurin Spellcaster?
Musician. There's a card Magic name called Musician.
Oh, Musician.
Yeah. Mercenaries. You can do it. You can do it.
Mercenaries.
That's correct. Mistfolk, later changed to Illusion. You can
Mistfolk.
do it. There you go. Oof.
Brown Oof.
That's correct. Pike Knight, later changed to Oof.
Pike Knight.
That's correct. Oh my God. Ranger? No way. There's no way.
No.
Kelsinko Ranger.
Okay.
Do you even think you know what color do you think that is?
Green?
I'm going to check really quick. I actually have no idea.
I would guess it's either green or white.
Well, I would agree with that. It's white.
Okay.
Let's take a look at this banger. Single white, 1/1. 1 and a white, target green creature gains first strike until end of turn. All right.
Okay, sure.
Sure, they work together.
Okay.
Shift, later changed to shapeshifter.
Shift.
Tarpan, later changed to horse.
Tarpan.
Tiger, later changed to cat.
Ice tiger?
No, it's red.
Mountain tiger?
Nope.
Fire tiger? Help me out.
Saber-tooth tiger. You know that card. I know you know that card.
Is it 2/1 first striker
Yes.
for red and 2?
Yes.
Yeah.
Titan.
Don't have it.
Mountain Titan. Toad, later changed to frog.
Jump to
There he is. White, later changed to zombie.
Is it white?
It's Dread White.
Dread white.
Wittigo, later changed to Yeti.
What if
Wolverine.
Wolverine?
No.
Snow Wolverine?
No.
Wolverines?
No.
I don't have it. Help me out.
Grizzle Wolverine.
Grizzle.
I like adding Wolverines. And the last one here is worms.
Scale worm?
Is mole worms.
Mole worms?
Yeah.
Oh, like worms like the insect, not worm like
yeah.
the. Okay.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have gotten it regardless.
I'm aware.
Yeah.
Not your best run. Not your best run. That's all right. That's all right. When it's time for me to answer stuff like this for like Lorwyn or something, it's going to be bad for me probably.
Okay.
So, the following counter types are introduced in Ice Age. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's see how we do here. Healing counters.
Healing counters?
Healing counters.
I don't know.
All right. So here's what I'm going to do for this one.
Okay.
I have an idea to try to make this a little bit easier for you.
Okay.
Because the people I know who watch, they like to see you win. I'm going to read the text of the card. See if you can name the card.
Okay.
There it is. Here's my Ice Age Scryfall.
Healing counters.
Mm-hmm. When blank comes into play, put 4 healing counters on it. Pay 0. Remove a healing counter from blank to prevent 1 damage to creature blank enchants.
Is it Fjord?
That is, I mean, like that's close to how you pronounce it. It's not Fjord, but it is pronounceable. Filgia.
Filia. Okay.
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 All right. You were close, but it doesn't. You didn't
Yeah,
get
yeah,
you didn't
yeah.
get it right. Okay. Ice counters.
Ice counters. Nope.
Okay. X blue enchantment. Blank enters the battlefield with X ice counters on it. 3. Put an ice counter on blank.
Are the glaciers?
That is a thing that would have ice on it, but that's not it. Remove an ice counter from blank, add a colorless mana.
Is it Fjord?
It is not that either.
Help me out.
They are melting in the, excuse me. Sorry. The Titanic ran into one.
Ice caps?
Iceberg. There it is.
Okay.
Good job. I think the Titanic ran into one. Music counters.
Musician.
Correct. Paralyzation counter. There's no way.
No chance.
Okay, here we go. I'm going to read this one. This one's got some banger art. 3 BB.
We gotta edit.
Creature zombie. Okay, I got you.
No, you just dropped an F-bomb.
Blank that out. Thank you. At the end of it's Dread, right? I'm not going to read it. You were never going to get it. You were never going to get
no
that.
chance.
And then slight counters.
This is so absurd.
I
I don't know.
Chromatic armor. Do you know what that card is?
I've never heard of that
Okay.
before.
All right. I'm going to read this one to you, and then we're going to close up this section. The artwork you probably know.
Yeah, that rings a bell.
Yeah, it's right up here. The artwork you probably know. Enters the battlefield. It's 1 white and a blue. Enters the battlefield, choose a color. Chromatic armor enters the battlefield with a slight counter on it. Prevent all damage that would be dealt to an enchanted creature by sources of the last chosen color. X, put a slight counter on chromatic armor and choose a color. X is the number of slight counters on chromatic armor. Those counters don't even do anything.
I did not listen to a word you just said.
Okay, that's fine. Those don't do anything. Okay. So I did all that to say this. There's a lot going on in this set.
Yeah.
One could argue too much.
somehow too much and also nothing.
That was the other point.
It's a weird middle ground.
We got a lot of counters getting thrown around here to not much gain. Got a lot of creature types, a lot of stuff going on. Got 2 horrible mechanics in cumulative upkeep and snow-covered lands. And then somehow they just finagled cantrips in this set, which has been like the architecture of Magic for like 25 years.
Yeah.
That kind of unbelievable.
That is a huge plus.
Yeah, kind of unbelievable. So our mechanics are done. When we come back, we're going to take a run through the cycles, of which there are 11 of them. We'll see you for that in just a sec. All right, everybody, it is time for the cycles of Ice Age, of which there are 11. And we start with everyone's favorite cycle, the Circle of Protections.
Well, as we mentioned at the top of the show, this would be Magic's first standalone expansion. And how would Magic be playable if you didn't have all 5 Circle of Protections ready at a moment's notice?
I can't argue that. And yep, they're all back. Now, I would read what they do, but you know what they do if you've been watching the show, if you've played Magic even a little. And all 5 are here, white, blue, black, red, and green. Remember that the black one was not printed. It was accidentally not printed in alpha, pardon me, but it's found its way in everything else since then. Or at least it effectively feels that way. Thank goodness they're back. Moving on to the Scarabs. Each of these uncommon white aura enchantment cards costs single white and has enchant creature, can't be blocked by blank color creatures, and enchanted creature gets +2/+2 as long as an opponent controls a blank colored permanent. There's white scarab, blue scarab, black scarab, red scarab, and green scarab. Your thoughts?
It's a little weird from a color pie perspective.
Okay.
But I do like these. It's kind of a new twist on wards. And I think the wards are kind of sweet cards and they're evocative for white to have. But protection from color is just a very on-off switch. Like it either does everything or nothing.
Yeah.
These are a little bit more, well, the creature sometimes is actually better than having a ward on it because you're getting, unblockable and +2/+2. But also sometimes it's a lot worse than a ward because they can still use removal spells or other ways of interacting with the thing. So it is a little bit more dynamic than the wards. Like I said, the can't be blocked by little off message for white to have that, but I like an attempt to do a slightly different ward that I would argue plays better. Positive on the cycle.
Okay. Let's go to the Ice Age boons. Each of these instances has a mana cost of M or 1 in M and an effect involving the number 3. This cycle is a rebalanced version of the boon cycle in alpha, including 2 reprints and 3 new cards. The overpowered Ancestral Recall and the underpowered Healing Salve are replaced, as was Lightning Bolt, which is plenty powerful, but it's gone as well. So, Brainstorm and Dark Ritual, they're still here. Do you know the other 3?
Incinerate?
That's 1.
Giant Growth.
That's 2.
I don't have the Healing Salve one.
Mm-hmm. Why would you? Sacred Boon.
Okay.
1 and a white, prevent up to 3 damage to target creature. At the end of turn, put a +0/+1 counter, favorite kind of counter, on that creature for each 1 damage prevented by Sacred Boon. You can put multiple +0/+1 counters. Thank goodness for that. Basically, as mentioned, kind of a fixed cycle, the power 9, or excuse, not power 9, the boons in alpha. Ancestral gone for Brainstorm. Healing Salve gone for Sacred Boon, Bolt gone for Incinerate, and then Dark Ritual and Giant Growth come back. I'm fine with all of this. The white one still stinks, but it didn't
really convey to me at the time as being a cycle because it's a combination of reprints in Dark Ritual and Giant Growth.
Mm-hmm.
You have pretty much a worse Ancestral Recall in Brainstorm.
Yeah.
And then the red and white cards are not strictly better or worse than Healing Salve or Lightning Bolt.
They're just different because they cost more.
Yeah, they cost more and they do something different.
Yeah.
Like you could argue, I think Incinerate is pretty clearly a weaker card than Lightning Bolt, but not strictly worse. And Healing Salve versus the white card is really confusing which one of those you would think is better.
Yeah.
Because that's a type of effect that's really sensitive to costing 1 mana if you're trying to win in combat or whatever.
Yep.
So it didn't seem that way as a cycle. I can appreciate that it's supposed to be, and there is a little connection to alpha, and some of the stuff is new and different and at the right power level, whatever. But the cycle is so disconnected that it sort of struggles to come across as a cycle.
Let's move on to monocolored hoser enchantments because Magic loves these things. Each of these cards, 2 of each color. Most cycles are just 1. 2 of each color. Hosers, 1 or the other of its enemy colors by punishing opponents or exerting a negative effect on them for playing lands or spells associated with that color, which is what you do in Magic. Amongst these are 2 mirrored pairs, the blue and red cards opposing each other, and the green and black cards opposing each other. The cards are uncommon, save for Wrath of Merit Lage and Curse of Merit Lage, which are rare. So, I was going to see if you could guess these. I don't believe in your ability to do so.
Yeah, I have a vague recollection of the green and black ones, but not really.
All right.
Blue and red, I assume, is Pyroblast, Hydroblast.
Okay, so white, Drought. Do you remember this card?
I'm sure it's some sort of conversion style. If you're playing red, you're dead.
So it is 2, basically 2 white at the beginning of your upkeep. Sacrifice Drought unless you pay white.
So we're right in conversion territory.
We're right where you need to be. Spells cost an additional sack of swamp to cast for each black mana symbol their mana cost. And activated abilities cost an additional sack of swamp to activate for each black mana symbol and their activation cost.
Okay.
What's the deal with this thing?
Yeah, that's
so if you're playing black, you just lose?
Yeah.
You can't do anything?
Well, you can do one more thing.
Sure. So there's Drought, and then there's Justice.
Okay.
Do you remember Justice?
I remember the art. I think it's a white anti-red hoser, but I don't remember the...
Once again, at the beginning of your upkeep, sacrifice Justice unless you pay 2 white.
Okay, great.
Whenever a red creature or spell deals damage, Justice deals that much damage to that creature or spell's controller.
Okay.
There you go.
So if you have Justice and I attack you with a 2/2, my 2/2's dead?
Justice deals that much damage to that creature or spell's controller.
Oh, it's all back to me.
Yeah, it's all back to your face.
Okay, sure. I mean, it's a little, it can be a little, if not lockouty, at least solved that it's a lockout some of the time.
Yeah.
But also, you could, by the standards of 1995, you do a lot worse than that.
I agree with that.
There's still a game that can be played after that card gets played. That's something.
All right, blue hosers. Wrath of Merit Lage and Breath of Dreams. Wrath of Merit Lage is 3 blue. When Wrath of Merit Lage comes into play, tap all red creatures. Red creatures down and tap during their controller's untap step. Okay.
Forever?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
It's an enchantment. Those are locked. Shut them down. Okay. So that's that one.
That's it?
That's all it does.
The whole thing?
It costs 5. It's kind of expensive.
Yeah.
And then the other one was called Breath of Dreams. I can't wait to see what this does. 2 blue, cumulative upkeep, blue. So elevator going up. Green creatures each require an additional cumulative upkeep of 1 colorless.
Okay.
All right. This goes away.
Yeah, that's not too bad.
Yeah.
That's not too bad.
All right. Black has Stench of Evil. Let's get our eyes on this one here.
This stink.
Let's see what this humdinger does. ST. Okay, one of the artwork's nice. 2 black. Destroy all planes. Good start. Has more text. Stench of Evil deals 1 damage to each player for each planes he or she controls that is destroyed this way. Each player may pay 2 colorless for each 1 damage he or she wishes to prevent from Stench of Evil. All right, so if you're playing planes, all your lands are dead.
That's really funny, too.
Yeah. Take some amount of damage.
So I'm going to destroy all of your lands. But if you want to keep playing this game, you can spend some mana to prevent a little bit of damage.
You can.
It's like, no, I'd rather just die.
Let's just play another game. Leshrach. I probably said that wrong. Leshrach? Leshrach? What do you think that is?
That's close enough.
Leshrach Sigil. All right, black. It's an enchantment. Pay BB. When an opponent successfully casts a green spell, it's a weird thing to put it that way. Look at that player's hand and choose a card. He or she then discards that card. Use this ability only once each time a green spell is cast, and then you can play black to return this to your hand? Why would you do that?
That is weird. Why would you want to return this to your hand?
It's not like from the graveyard or something. It's like it's in play. You can play black to pick it up.
Is it at instant speed?
It just says return it to your hand, so I assume
I guess
yes.
it's to prevent it from being blown up.
All right, I guess.
Awful.
Yeah.
That part of the design is indefensible, but I appreciate at least a color hoser that's like eventually the game moves on to a different thing.
Sure.
First of all, it's not that powerful, and second, eventually you're just drawing off the top and playing whatever, and the card doesn't do anything anymore.
All right.
It's not that, again, by the standards of the time, not that bad.
Red hosers. Anarchy.
Take that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
2 red, destroy all white permanents.
This was a huge deal because one, it's just super busted against white decks, obviously.
Yep.
But it also gives red an answer to circle protection red.
That's true.
Yeah,
That's
huge deal.
And then there was Curse of Merit Lage, which is 3 red, enters the battlefield. Tap all islands. Islands do not untap during their controller's untap phase. So
yeah, take that.
Suck on that, Blue.
Yeah, we're playing a match and it's just all of your lands are tapped forever, but all of my creatures are tapped forever.
Yeah, that's some super fun. And then let's get to white. White's got Thought Leech. So let's see what I got here. Never even heard of. Is it Thought Leech? Nah, did we typo? We may have typoed. Hold on. Okay, well, it's got Felice. Okay, hang on. Felice's Charm. Let's see if that's right. Oh, no, that's green. They're both green. I'm an idiot. I can't read my own writing. I like to leave the mistakes in. It shows that I'm human. Okay, so.
No way we would have known otherwise.
Oh, yeah, that's right. That's right. All right, Felice's Charm. Oh, it's this thing again. Okay, green. You can pay green. When an opponent successfully casts a black spell, draw a card. Use the ability only once each time a black spell has been cast, and then you can pay green to pick it up.
Not bad.
Okay.
Sure, whatever.
That's fine enough.
Yeah, it's not ruining my day.
Yeah, and then Freylease is so now it's Thought Leech. Okay, let's see what this one does here.
Weird name for a green card.
It's got like this crazy guy on its head. You've probably seen this artwork before. Green enchantment. Whenever an island controlled by target opponent becomes tapped, gain a life. That's not anything. That's not anything.
It's Crystal Rod for lands.
Yeah, that's not anything. All right. Okay, so of those, I would say Drought's probably the biggest beating. I know Anarchy's really good.
Anarchy's really good. And it solves a problem that could not be solved up until this point.
Yeah.
At this point, Magic has a number of just 2 to 4 mana. If your opponent's playing a certain color, it goes from anywhere from huge advantage to game over.
Yep.
So value over replacement on some of these cards is not very high, even though some of them are bangers.
Yeah.
Anarchy is, wow, did I need this?
Yes. Yeah. All right. Let's go to the talismans after that shaky section. Each of these uncommon artifacts costs 2 and have a triggered ability that allows its controller to pay 3 colorless whenever a spell of a given color is cast to untap target permanent. So the names of these talisman.
Yeah, they're all over the place.
Nacre talisman, Nacre, Lapis Lazuli talisman, Onyx talisman, Hematite talisman, and then Malachite. Maybe it's pronounced Malachite talisman. I remember Hematite and Malachite because those were golems in Mirrodin.
Okay.
I remember those guys.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah. So I remember those guys. The other ones, not so much. But okay, sure, that's a cycle that happened. Shard ability uncommons. Each of these uncommon permanents has either an activated ability that requires a creature of one of its allied colors or 2 activated abilities corresponding to each of its allied colors. So the 5 cards are Snowhound, Dreams of the Dead, Kervakan Elementalist, Orcish Healer, and Freylease Supplicant. I'm gonna get the Hound out.
Yeah.
So we can read one of these. So let's do some scrolling here. Get you an idea of how these cards work. All right, Snowhound. It costs 2 and a white, so 3 mana, 1/1. You can pay 1 and tap it, return Snowhound to owner's hand, and target blue or green creature you control to owner's hand. So it saves something.
Yeah, a little rescue dog.
All right, that's nice. That's nice. Okay. Dreams of the Dead. I remember seeing this card. Okay,
I think it's some sort of. Oh, I'm thinking of a different card. I think.
So 3 and a blue enchantment. You can pay 1 and a blue. Take target white or black creature from your graveyard and put it directly into play as though it was just summoned. That creature now requires an additional cumulative upkeep of 2. That creature leaves play, remove it from the game. All right.
Okay.
Kervak. I actually kind of want to just know what all these do now. So Kervakan Elementalist. That's obviously black. It's going to be next to Kervakan Horror here. Okay. Black, 1/1 wizard. You can pay 2 and a red. Target creature gets +1/+1 until end of turn. You can pay blue. Target creature you control gains flying until end of turn. At end of turn, bury that creature. Well, we just couldn't give it flying.
No,
that was just too good.
Remember, we wanted to make flying special in this set.
Yep.
Scaffoldize his own words.
Hold on. It's target creature you control. You couldn't put him in the lock.
No.
I was really hoping you could.
No, they figured that one out.
I was really hoping you could put the opponent in the lock. Okay. Orcish Healer. Let's take a look ski here real quick. Starts with an O. All right. Oh, the artwork on this that's a lot. Red for a 1/1 cleric. You can pay red and tap it. Target creature cannot regenerate this turn. You can pay red black, tap it, regenerate target black or green creature. You can pay red green, tap it, regenerate target black or green creature.
I feel like there was a way to tighten up this design.
I thought I made a mistake by reading the same thing, and that's not what happened at all. Okay. And then the last one is Fraley's Supplicant. Okay. This is quite the cycle of cards here. That's the wins. Here's a Supplicant. 1 and a green, 1/1 cleric. Tap, sacrifice a red or white creature to have Fraley's Supplicant deal an amount of damage equal to half the creature's power rounded down to target creature or player.
Really weird green card.
I was going to say, that's not a green card at all.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
well,
it's just the fling machine.
That's a cycle. Fling machine, sort of.
Yeah.
Half a fling.
Yeah.
Let's go to a cycle that people actually know of and have heard of and you can actually talk about. Depletion lands.
Yes.
Each of these rare dual lands has a mana ability tapping for 1 of 2 allied colors of mana, but cause the lands not on tap on the player's next turn. These lands are named for the depletion counters used to prevent them from untapping normally. Do you know the 5?
Velt.
1.
Lava tubes.
2. We have reached.
I don't have it. Yeah,
we've reached this man's blind
Tapping
spot.
out.
All right. This next one is called Land Cap.
That's the blue-white one.
Okay, that's correct. We have River Delta.
Blue-black.
Okay, obviously. And then we have Timberline Ridge.
Green-red.
That's correct. Did you play with these?
Yeah.
Okay. Any good?
No, they're awful. But they were there. So what are you gonna do?
No, they're awful. Okay.
Yeah, this is in the space of mana fixing that's worse than adding a random basic land to your 2-color deck.
Got it. Okay. All right. So this is like probably in the time frame where they were like, we don't want dual lands to be ubiquitous everywhere, so let's open up this design space and try to create lands that tap for 2 colors.
Right. We're talking right after the 4th edition.
Yeah.
Which was the first core base set, whatever you want to call it. They didn't have the original dual lands.
Yep.
Part of the value of doing that is now you open up the design space to make rare dual lands that are worse than the original duels, but still plenty good enough to play and plenty appealing. My critique here is, 1, these are quite bad.
Yep.
And making them tap for the colorless seems like without any penalty, seems like a reasonable way to balance them, and would also sync them up with the Painland cycle.
Yeah, which we're about to get to.
If you want to do these, I wish that, you want to do these as they are. I wish these were enemy colored dual lands. Because then it could say, first of all, you're replacing the 10 original dual lands with 10 new dual lands that people get in Ice Age. And 2, you sort of signal to Scaff's point, we want the allied pairings to have a little bit more emphasis. Yeah, you can get enemy dual lands, but they're worse than the ones that you get in the allied color pairings.
Sure.
So you can build those decks, but it's harder. And, it was a lot of more of the same. And because you still had, you had Badlands and you had Sulphurous Springs, it's not like you really needed to play Lava Tubes as well,
sure,
given how much weaker it was than the first 2 options.
We got Painlands here. You're all probably familiar with these. They tap for a colorless, or they can tap for a 1 of 2 colors and you take a damage. So Edakar Waste, Underground River, Sulphurous Springs, Carpolution Forest, and Brushland.
Love these designs.
Yep.
Right power level. Very smooth to play with. I also really like them in this set particular because there is a little bit of a tone of, the natural resources have been depleted. There's been a lot of war. There's been a lot of natural disaster. Pulling out colored mana out of this world is a little bit trickier than in most of our worlds.
How do you say Edakar Waste?
Edakar Waste.
You don't say it darker?
No.
Okay. I don't know. Some people do.
Edakar Waste.
Okay, got it. Allied rares. Each of these rare spells costs NM capital N, where capital M and capital N are allied colors of mana. Chromatic Armor, Skeleton Shep, Mountain Titan, Stormbind, and Altar of Bone.
So Stormbind was one of the first rares that I got my hands on.
Okay.
Just in my, I just tried it out in my red-green deck. And because the average card at the time was so much worse than a 2-mana shock.
Yeah.
This card was busted.
Okay.
This was the first card that I ever owned where I semi-regularly beat Eugene Harvey when I played it.
Okay.
And it was the first card that I ever had that Eugene complained about. That's how I knew I was onto something.
Nice.
So I got a lot of love for Stormbind. You know what I did after I got my first Stormbind? Very quickly got 3 more.
Yeah, but
once I figured it out, I was like, oh, wow, it's on.
And if I already have one, good to discard another one.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you know, these cards have something of a purpose where you're playing a beatdown deck. You want to have a different card type that still applies pressure, mitigates flooding in late games, so you can play around Wrath of God a little bit, and you aren't just beaten if the game happens to go on for 5 or 6 turns. So it was actually it's a useful design in general for beatdown decks.
Okay.
But also cards back then were just so much weaker that the conversion rate was pretty strong relative to what was going on.
Guess what? Y'all probably thought when we went through those 10 hosers that we were done with hosers. You'd be wrong.
No.
Because I got 5 multicolored hoser enchantments. Each of these rare bicolored cards of an allied color pairing that has 1 enemy color in common, directly or indirectly, hoses opponents for playing decks with the enemy color. 4 of the cards affect the opponent's lands in some way, super fun, including Flooded Woodlands and Reclamation, which have mirrored effects. The odd card out is the black-red Ghostly Flame. So, Glaciers. Let's start there. You remember this card? 2 white, blue, 4-mana enchantment. During your upkeep, as always, pay a white and a blue or destroy glaciers. All mountains are plains.
Great.
Super fun. Just the most fun.
Yeah.
I don't even know how that would work as far as glaciers is concerned, but okay. Flooded Woodlands is my next card. Let's take a look at this humdinger. Old Magic is so awesome because the goal is to not let your opponent get to play.
Yeah. 2
blue and a black enchantment. No green creature can attack unless its controller sacrifices a land whenever that creature attacks. All right. I mean, you can kind of play through that.
Yeah. That's a rough one, though.
Yeah. Okay. Ghostly Flame. I remember this card because of the artwork.
Yeah. This design's great.
So I actually think this is a good design.
It is.
Okay, cool. So red and a black enchantment, both black and red permanents and spells are considered colorless sources of damage. Just let you play through circles of protection.
Yeah. There's a bit of a story here.
Okay.
And it's not just, are you playing white? You're dead, like most of these designs are.
Yep.
It's counterplay against your sideboard card against me.
Yes.
So you also pay the tax sometimes having that card in your sideboard or putting it into play because your opponent might not draw a circle protection or they might not even have circle protections in their deck or sideboard.
Yep.
So it's not just a random hammer because someone's playing a color, but it's speaking to answering a sideboard card or a suite of sideboard cards that is very frustrating to play against. Really good design.
Monsoon 2RG. It's a 4-mana enchantment at the beginning of each player's end step. Actually, I'm not going to read the new text. I'm going to read the old text. Sorry. Whenever an island is untapped at the end of its controller's turn, tap it. Monsoon deals 1 damage to that player.
Okay.
Remember, this is in a time when mana burn was a thing.
Yeah.
So you couldn't just go like, I'll tap all my mana. I take nothing from Monsoon.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. Because then you would take damage that way. And then the last one of the bunch is Reclamation, not Wilderness Reclamation. Not that horrible card that we had to endure for a while. Reclamation is 2, a white and a green. Black creatures can't attack unless their controller sacrifices a land for each black creature they control that's attacking. All right. That's 15 hosers. No, wait, hold on. Yeah, that's 15 hosers in this set.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, that's so many.
And that's also, is that not counting the circles?
It's 20 hosers in this set.
Scarabs?
It's 25 hosers in this set.
It's just so much of the set.
What the hell? Come on, man. And then I've got shard rares. Each of these rare tricolored cards cost 3 colors, or it costs 3 plus 3 colors, where 2 colors are allied. Great. So Storm Spirit, Mariki.
It was known as Mariki Ryberet in my circle, but right. I don't know.
Mariki Ryberet, Elemental Augury, Earthlink, and a card I've cast quite a bit, Fiery Justice.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so those are your cycles. I got 17 pairs, and you're not going to be able to guess these. Okay. So there's Order of the White Shield. Do you think you know the other half of
that? Order of the Black Shield?
Okay, that's Knight of Stromgold.
Sure.
So that's where we're at with this. Is it Order? Normally that'd be a good guess.
Yeah, White Knight, Black Knight.
Yeah, that'd be a good guess normally. These uncommon 2/1 night creatures, 1 white and 1 black, both cost 2 of the same color mana and have protection from the other's color. Then you can pay a single color of a mana. This creature gains first strike on a turn, or you can pay like white, and this creature gets +1/+1 until the turn. Cool.
Okay. Order
of the Sacred Touch and Stromgold Cabal.
I think I know Stromgold Cabal.
Talk to me.
Black 1/2/2. Tap it and pay a life to counter a white spell.
Wait for it. Scrolling up, confirming. Say it again.
Black, 1, 2,
Yes.
2.
Yep.
Tap it and pay a life to counter a white spell.
Correct.
Yeah, this was a fringe player in Constructed at one point in time. Back in standard 99 2000 era.
Okay.
There was a combo deck centered around Replenish, putting a bunch of enchantments in your graveyard, casting Replenish.
Yeah.
And then there was a mono black deck that, had a mixture of pressure and disruption and had Vampiric Tutor, so you could play some one-ofs. So that card was pretty effective at, your opponent couldn't cast Replenish.
Okay.
Because you could counter it.
Yep.
All their ways of answering creatures, Wrath of God, Parallax, Weave, were also white.
We're white. Yep.
And if you had some clock going, then they wouldn't be able to play out of it.
So Stromgal Cabal says pay 1 life to counter target white spell. Okay.
Yeah.
The order, this is a little confusing in my opinion. The order of the Sacred Touch is the same thing, but it says pay 1 life to destroy target black spell.
That is awful. I don't even know what that means.
And you play this ability as interrupt. So does that mean it's...
I think that's supposed to be a counter spell that's just really badly worded. But
I think so too. I'm surprised that they're differently worded since they're mirrors.
Yeah, of course.
And that one has to be very confusing.
Yeah, that's all. That is awful.
Now, okay, so if I go to the Scryfall text, the Oracle's pay a life counter target black spell,
Okay.
but doesn't read that way.
No,
if I'm just playing with my friends, I'm just like, all right, destroy that black senior vampire. It's a spell that's resolved. Like that just that experience sucks.
Horrendous.
Yeah, that experience sucks. Hydroblast.
Pyroblast.
There you go. Common modal instance, 1 blue and 1 red. Counter or destroy a permanent of the other's color. Thunderwall.
I don't know.
Wall of lava.
Okay.
These uncommon wall creatures with toughness equal to the...
In nature, Thunder's normal pairing is with lava. So
yes.
that makes a lot of sense.
Equal to their power, +2, 1 blue and 1 red. Both cost 1 blue, and 1 red, and have. You can pay a red or a blue. Gets +1/+1 till end of turn. Sea Spirit.
I have no idea.
Flame Spirit.
Okay.
These uncommon 2/3 elemental spirit creatures, 1 blue and 1 red. Both have a mana cost of 5, and you can pay one of their colors of mana, give them +1/+1 till end of turn. Wind Spirit versus... This is great, by the way.
Fog Spirit.
Stone Spirit, actually.
Sure.
Close. These uncommon elemental spirit creatures, 1 blue and 1 red. Why are they all blue and red? Both have a mana cost of 5 and an ability that limits an opponent's ability to block it.
Blue and red back then were really defined as the elemental colors.
All right.
So that's how a lot of that shakes out, I think.
Okay, that actually makes sense. There's Wrath of Merit Lage versus Curse of Merit Lage. We went over those already in the Haterade section. There's the Sigils, which we went over in the Haterade section. There's Icequake versus Thermokarst, which you went over already on your own. Uncommon sorceries, 1 black and 1 green. They destroy a land and cause a 1-point life steal if the land was snow.
Yeah, take that, snow deck.
Yeah.
And 1.
Yeah. There's mixtape.
Yeah.
There's Drought versus Justice. Okay. There's Formation versus Lightning Blow. Okay, so these rare white instants both cost 1 and a white. Cantrip and grant target creature a keyword.
I know this. I know these.
Okay.
I actually own a Formation.
Okay, so what's the keyword they grant?
Banding
That's correct.
and First Strike.
That is correct. Well done.
These are sweet rares. These are really
Those
sweet
are
rares.
rares.
Yes.
All right. Whew.
Yeah.
Boy,
Brutal.
if I open one of these, I would be pissed.
Brutal.
Blessed Wine versus Heal.
Yep.
These common white instants both cantrip and have flavor text quoting Halvor Aronson. And either gain you 1 life or prevent 1 damage, mimicking the classic white spell Healing Salve. Sort of. Enervate versus Infuse. These common blue instants both cantrip and have flavor text quoting Gustha Ebbisdotter.
Yeah.
And yeah. And either tap or untap a target artifact, creature, or land, mimicking the classic blue spell Twiddle. Spoils of Evil versus Spoils of War. These rare black non-permanent spells both have effects that scale off the number of artifacts and or creatures in an opponent's graveyard. There's Minion of Leshrac versus Minion of Tevesh Zat, which I think these are both... Leshrac and Tevesh Zat I think are both magic cards. These rare black demon minion creatures both cost 4 BBB, so 7 mana. Damage you during your upkeep unless you pay a cost. and have an activated ability. Each is named for a black planeswalker involved in the Ice Age storyline. I knew it. I've seen Tevesh Sat before in a card. We got Pale Bears versus Pygmy Allosaurus.
Oh, yeah. Your lands, we're walking right on over them. Also rare.
Okay, you know these two.
Oh, these are, jeez. Yeah. I mean, I very quickly, with the amount of Ice Age that I opened, I got to place out of these dealers real quick.
These rare 2/2 green creatures both cost 2 and a green and have land walk for one of the green's enemy colors. So one gets Swamp Walk and one gets Island Walk.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I actually appreciate Pale Bears. They're swimming through the Arctic. Great.
Sure. Okay.
Good Island Walk story.
Okay, sure.
Pygmy Allosaurus is kind of fudging it a little bit.
Well, when you want to complete a cycle, you're willing to do some things.
Pale Bear.
Or at least pairs. And then we've got Flooded Woodlands versus Reclamation, and these are more Hater Raider cards. So there's your cycles. There's your mirrored pairs. Again, as I said at the top, this set's trying to do just too much.
And nothing.
Yep.
It's both. It's a lot of both. Some of those rares are really
the formation and the other one.
Keep in mind, this is also that time before there were rarity colors on cards.
Okay.
You didn't know what your rare was, but we're at a time where there's starting to be print publication that's easily accessible. Scry and Inquest are starting to populate and they have that information. So you didn't know formation was rare until you went to the card store, opened it up and realized, wait, that was my rare?
That's so gross.
Yeah. Ice Age might, I would guess, would beat any other set in Magic's history in terms of people trading commons for rares.
And just not knowing it.
Not knowing it, because what reads more rare to you, formation or scaled worm? It's like scaled worm. Scaled worm, of course.
Yeah,
right?
Sure.
Nope, you were wrong.
You got robbed.
Yeah, sorry.
You got robbed. It's break time. When we're going to come back, we're going to talk about misprints and trivia. We got a lot here for you, but we're going to try to coast through it a little bit quicker. See you in a second. All right, everybody, it is misprints and trivia time. Sometimes I separate them. Sometimes I keep them together. I'm going to keep them together this particular episode. I'm going to kick things off with misprints. We don't have a ton. We have a couple. Aurochs. Ken Meyer Jr. I think it's Meyer, not Mayer. Ken Meyer Jr.'s name is spelled without a comma on this card. Unlike the other 6 instances of the artist's name in the Ice Age set where it is spelled with a comma. How dare they? Bolduvian Shaman. The first word in the text box is spelled permanently Permanantly instead of permanently Permanently. The people who find this stuff, unbelievable.
Especially on that design.
Yeah.
Which is just horrible. 4-point font or whatever.
Yeah. It's a horrible card. Jothel Worm, perhaps. In the text box of this card, it refers to itself as Jothel Worm instead of worm, with an O instead of a U. It was corrected in later printings. Gotcha. Jockle Hops is a type of mudslide that occurs when a volcano erupts between a glacier. That sounds painful for someone if they're there. It is actually misspelled and should be Jockle Hop, Jokulhlaup, no S. That's fun. And then Mountain Goat, the word folklore is misspelled folklore. No second L in the flavor text. Well, there you go. Can't get anything by the internet, apparently. Yeah. There's a functional reprint section, which I don't have any interest in going over. So we're doing trivia now.
Okay.
All right. Here's some first from Ice Age. Let's do this. Counterspell is the first card to reference a battle between 2 wizards in its flavor text. Quote, the duel was going badly for me, and Zur thought I was finished. He boasted that he would eat my soul, but all he ate were his words.
Yeah, the first of many counterspell at mechanic counterspell flavor text that was like, you thought that you were the cool guy, but then it turns out I'm the cool guy. Jace Bellerin. This is the first one.
Who showed who?
Yeah. Oh, you thought that you were smart, but it turns out I'm smarter.
I'm smarter. Yeah, I'm the smart one here. Deflection is the first spell to have the ability to change the target of another spell. Reflecting Mirror in the dark actually came first, but it was an artifact, introducing this ability to blue where it would stay for many years before changing to red.
Yeah.
I was always a big deflection fan.
Yeah, this was one of the most desired cards when the set came out.
General Jarkeld is the first mono white legendary creature. Okay. Jeweled Amulet is the first attempt at creating a fixed Mox card and the first attempt at creating a fixed version of any of the Power 9 cards. Despite its association with the powerful Moxes, Jeweled Amulet was too weak to see much play at all. That check out for you?
Criminally underrated card.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I got to look it up really quick.
I mean, it's certainly much weaker than the Moxes, but you can be weaker than the Moxes and still have purpose.
All right, let me see Jeweled Amulet really quick. 0 mana, 1 in tap, put a charge counter on Jeweled Amulet. Note the type of mana spent to pay this activation cost. Activate only if there are no charge counters on Jeweled Amulet. Remove a charge counter and add 1 mana. I mean, it's not the worst card I've ever seen.
Yeah, it's like you go, it's basically sort of a Mox every other turn.
Sure.
It's not, I'm not saying that it's good.
Yeah.
But everyone was like, oh my, look how much worse than a Mox this is. And it's like, I would wager in the top 20% of power level in Ice Age.
Comparatively, it's obviously much worse than a Mox, but it's not that bad of a card.
Right.
Okay. Kravakin Fetish is the first enchantment to also be a cantrip. Okay. Legions of Limdul is the only card ever printed with snow-covered Swamp Walk.
Yeah.
Cool.
Take that.
Yep. Your boy, Martin Stromgald.
Absolute dealer.
Is the first mono red legendary creature.
Mr. Lethal.
Not to be confused with Mr. Worldwide.
Yeah, no, this was actually a really great design too, because it's super fun and appealing. And also, if you're playing with sort of low power decks and early collections, the games are often in a stalemate, and Martin Stromgall has a habit of getting it over with.
Okay. Well, I know you like that. Getting games over with is a big thing for you.
I play with that card a bunch, like local tournament style.
Pale Bears is the first green creature with Island Walk. Its name was changed from Polar Bears because Dominaria does not have any poles. Nevertheless, Polar Kraken is in the same set. So, okay. This was the first card. This is the first card that artist Anthony S. Waters was paid to paint. Pygmy Allosaurus is the first green creature with Swamp Walk, although Wormwood Shreefolk from the Dark has an activated ability to grant it Swamp Walk. Pygmy Allosaurus is also Magic's first dinosaur. Aw.
Very weird that you would do the first time you would do a dinosaur as a 2/2.
Yeah, but
Wouldn't you want like a T-Rex or just?
I would want something enormous.
Yeah,
yeah, like what they did. One of the things I like about Ixalan is they just did dinosaurs really well. Then, like, none of them are particularly good. Some of them are like close to being playable, but it's just like, yeah, they should all be gigantic.
Yeah,
yeah. Bleep that out. Sorry, I did it again. Jeez, having a tough day. Having a tough go of it, John. Sorry. Pike Knight, first creature to also be a cantrip. Ray of Command, first spell to gain temporary control of a creature. Shift, first creature to be able to change its own color. All right. Let's go to names and explanations. A Darker Sentinel, a Darker... What am I saying a Darker? Adakar Sentinel, Adakar Unicorn, and Adakar Waste was named for Scaphalias' friend. Pretty cool. Aurochs is an extinct ancestor of domestic cattle. Prior to Cold Snap, it was the only card that had the Aurochs subtype. I remember them coming back and...
Yeah, they made sure they put a bow on that little
chain off.
Yeah.
Just get all the cattle.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that. Foxfire is a phosphorescent glow produced by certain fungi that grow on rotting wood. Cool. We're learning things now. Fumarole. Whenever I think of that, I think of Wandering Fumarole is a hole that emits gas, usually near a volcano. All right. Hipparion is an extinct three-toed relative of the horse. All right. What was that lemur?
Hypolopolis lemur.
I like that you just know that right away. Is a ghost with glassy wings, but the art depicts a winged lemur instead.
Yeah.
All right. Jockle Hops, I've already gone over, is an Icelandic word referring to the type of mudslide that occurs when a volcano erupts beneath a glacier. Naked Singularity, it's going to come up later, trust me, is a region of extremely high density outside of a black hole. Tarpan is an extinct wild European horse, and Thermokarst is a type of land surface that results from melting permafrost. There you go. We've learned some things. Now we're going to get to some illustrations. Okay. I'm glad this has finally come up. Bolduvian Shaman. Now, I did some digging here. People believe this is probably the most complicated common card ever printed. In addition, there is no style guide for Ice Age, so all the people of Bolduvia look completely different thanks to the different angles of many artists. So you're probably going to see Bolduvian Shaman, Bolduvian Barbarians, and Bolduvian Conjurer come up on the screen here. I'm going to read Bolduvian Shaman, folks. 1, because the text is very small. 2, because it doesn't make any sense. So 1 mana, 1/1. Tap. Permanently change the text to target white enchantment you control that does not have cumulative upkeep by replacing all instances of one color word with another. For example, you may change, quote, counters black spells, end quote, to counters blue spells.
Keep going.
Beloved Shaman cannot change mana symbols. That enchantment now has cumulative upkeep of 1.
Yeah. Keep going. We're not done.
That's all of it.
Okay, we're
That's
done.
all of it.
We're done. So you want to trade me your formation for my Baldufian Shaman? Surely that's got to be the rare, right?
This thing's a common. You have to be kidding me with this. They put an example on the card.
Yeah, so I guess this, like, ostensibly the most powerful thing you can do with it in the set is with the circle protections, of course.
Yeah, sure. Those need to be better.
Yeah, so I think this is the most complicated common of all time. But as far as it goes, it's pretty low impact because the card is just so weak and baffling that you kind of just toss in the trash can.
Yeah, sure.
How do you think that compares to Dead Ringers in terms of complexity?
You know,
it's apples to oranges, I understand, but Dead Ringers is strong and regularly comes up as a result of that.
I will say this. There was a little thing on Twitter recently that Dead Ringers is not complicated. Disagree. I'm still not sure what it does.
Yeah, it's that's not true because I played in Pro Tours where that card was around and people at the Pro Tour didn't know how it worked.
I've been doing this Magic thing for like 25-ish years. And every time I read Dead Ringers, I have to read it out loud and I'm just like, I'm off it. I don't know how it works.
Yeah, don't do what Donnie Don't does.
Okay. The characters on the Sword Blade of Disenchant are from an alphabet known as the Anglo-Saxon Furthric. I think I got that right. They spell out magic, M-A-G-I-K. Cool. Formation was named Tactics until the art came back featuring ostriches, and the name didn't seem to fit anymore. We agree. The illustration of Knight of Stromgold references chess. The ground is colored like a chessboard, and to the left is a tower, and to the right another tower shaped like the chess war elephant, which is a bishop in English. Therefore, the knight corresponds to the chess horseman, or knight. That is the same thing. Near the war elephant tower are 2 towers looking like chess foot soldiers, which are pawns in English. Cool. Lost Order of Jarkeld, one of those 2, is depicted by artwork that was commissioned for a card cut from Legends. That card was to represent one of the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. And last, but certainly not least, Urza's Bauble, which actually does see some play in Legacy nowadays, has the word Urza written on the bauble in its artwork. I checked. I did a zoom in. It's accurate.
Yes.
Okay. It took me a really long time to get all these notes together. And I actually looked into so many cards. They're all linked in my notes here. Promotional cards. I always forget. How do you say? I always forget how to say this card.
Nora?
It's not Fjords. It's the other one. Filga. Hang on. We're going to Filja.
Yeah.
There we go. Filja. All right. Let's learn more about Filja. And Prismatic Ward were the only cards in this expansion to use the old white mana symbol. Oops. This was because they were used promotionally and so were released before the rest of the expansion. All right. Goblin Mutant and Kravakan Vampire are 2 of 5 uncommon Ice Age block Japanese language cards offered as a promotion in Japan, which have unique artwork and stuff, which will be on the screen here in just a moment. The Ice Age block was not released in Japan. Bummer. Nor it would not be, this is your Nort fact here. Nor it would not be printed as a common today. At least people believe that, as it is complicated and has abilities normally associated with uncommon and rare cards. It was used as a promotion, being given away with Scry magazine before the release of Ice Age.
I got one of these. I don't have it anymore, but I did get the magazine with the promo in it.
Those of you who don't know what Nort does, 3 and a black. It's a 1/1 imp. You can tap it to untap target blue creature. All right. Then you can tap it, choose target non-wall creature the active player has controlled continuously since the beginning of the turn. That creature attacks this turn if able. Destroyed at the beginning of the next end step if it didn't attack this turn.
So it's Nettling Imp for an extra mana, but it can also just untap your blue creature too.
Okay. This is a common.
Yeah, what's wrong with that?
What is this thing? It's got great artwork.
I'll say that. The notion of rarity in this set is it's so far away from correct. It's something that I talk a lot about when it comes to alpha, of just of the many ways in which alpha is brilliant, how well executed rarity is.
Okay.
There's very few cards in that set that I would point to and say, yeah, they got the rarity wrong.
Yeah.
You know, I think Fireball at common's a little bit too complicated. I think for play pattern reasons, you're not supposed to do control magic at a lower rarity, whatever. But by and large, they got it right. This set with Balduvian Shaman and Formation is just a joke.
Yeah. I don't know
It's so much worse than Alpha. Where was Richard?
Yeah. What was he doing?
Where was what? What's going on here? How did the first set convey a better understanding of rarity than sets that came after it? Doesn't make any sense.
Let's throw the biggest creatures here. Chaos Lord has the greatest combined power and toughness among mono red creatures in Ice Age. Do you know how big it is?
7/7.
That's correct. The characters on the shield are from the Elder Futhark runic alphabet, and they spell out these characters. I am real mean. I checked. You can too. Infernal Denizen has the greatest combined power and toughness among mono black creatures.
8/8?
5/7.
5/7.
Okay. Polar Kraken
11/11
has the greatest combined power and toughness among all creatures at the time of its printing until Phyrexian Dreadnought in Mirage.
Yeah, you got to bust your toes out.
Yeah.
Your finger's not enough to count up all that.
That's
power
right.
totals. Yeah.
11/11, baby. Look at you. Look at you. No, give him to me. You can hold them. There you go. Careful. It's expensive.
These pale bears are about to be swallowed up.
Yes, they are. Scaled Worm has the greatest combined power and toughness among mono green creatures in Ice Age.
7/6.
That is correct. It was used as a promo before the release of the expansion. And then Seraph has the greatest combined power and toughness among mono white creatures.
5/5?
No, a little lower.
4/4?
There you go.
Yeah.
And then Soldevi Gullum has the greatest combined power and toughness among artifact creatures.
4/6?
It's a 5/3.
5/3.
It was a 4-mana 5/3. Doesn't untap during your untap step. At the beginning of your upkeep, you may untap target tapped creature an opponent controls. If you do, untap the Gullum. Flavor text slow and steady wins the race.
Yeah, so it's like Juggernaut. It's like another. It's somewhat different, way more confusing Juggernaut.
Okay, here's the miscellaneous and our last aspects of trivia before we go to our award show, folks. Anarchy breaks the red can't destroy enchantments rule. It's
Good.
true. Yeah.
Take your circle of protection somewhere else.
Yeah, go home.
Go play in the 0-1 bracket.
Dance of the Dead has Oracle text longer than would fit into the card box.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. Dark Ritual, I like this one. Dark Ritual last had the card type Interrupt in Ice Age. It then became a mana source and later an instant, making it the card to have had the greatest number of card types in its history.
Okay.
Flare was named Poke, but was changed for being not a good card name.
Yeah, well, the cantrips are trying to convey this like kind of Dungeons and Dragons-y. I got little like spells or whatever.
Yeah.
It's not supposed to be a physical attack. And Poke is a corny name anyway.
Yeah. It's like, remember Pokes on Facebook?
Sort of.
It's better that we don't. That was a thing for a while and it was not good. Incinerate replaced the overpowered lightning bolt and yet was still considered too powerful in retrospect. Is that your experience?
No.
Okay.
Fine. How many creatures were generated? When people played.
Probably not very many.
Yeah, it's just it didn't really come up.
Okay.
That's all.
Jester's Cap was designed both to thrill players with the new idea of manipulating an opponent's library, which had previously been considered taboo, and to hurt decks reliant on powerful restricted list cards.
Great design.
Yeah, I like that card.
Awesome.
Yeah, I like that card. Meteor Shower confused many players as a result of its XX red mana cost and X+1 damage it dealt. That actually just probably is confusing.
That is really confusing. Not only is it confusing, but if you showed, you know how we talk a lot about, a new player, you showed them Shivan Dragon or Nightmare.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, wow, what a game. Like, this is so good.
This is cool.
This is the opposite. This is opposite Shivan Dragon. I'm like, oh, so it's calculus. Huh? No, I'm not doing that.
This is one of those cards that like I would learn how to play it when I'm competitive, but I would just have to sit there and think about it for a very long time and be like, okay, I got it now. Mind Warp was intended to be a fixed mind twist, failed.
This is like black 3X?
Yes.
And you coercion them? Or is it random?
I believe it is random, but confirming because I have a link here in my notes. Look at target player's hand and choose X cards from it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's okay. I mean, it's so much worse than Mind Twist that
Fixed.
It's a little too obvious.
Yeah.
But it's not an unappealing design.
Yeah.
It's just not that good.
And last, but certainly not least, Pestilence Rats. Has power equal to the number of rats in play, but it's only the third card printed with the creature type rat after Bog Rats and Plague Rats, which means it wasn't very good.
Yeah, you got to wait for Relentless Rats before all these things are kicking a high gear.
All I'm saying is Magic, we need a little boost to rats. They tried like in Kamigawa block, but I think we could use a little boost to rats. Rats are cool. That's it for misprints and trivia, thank goodness. All right, everybody, guess what? We're taking a short break. I'm setting Polar Kraken down. Award show, finally, right after this short break. All right, everybody, it is time for your favorite part of the show, my favorite part of the show, everybody's favorite part of the show, Polar Kraken's favorite part of the show. It's time for the award show. Polar Kraken, spoiler, is not winning an award. Sad, but it will come up again later, I promise. Let's start with the Oko Thief of Crowns Award for best card in the set. Go ahead.
I'm going to give it to Demonic Consultation.
This is a card we've not mentioned yet on the show.
Yeah, this is another, I'll talk about this a little bit more in depth when we get to the grade of the set.
Okay.
But this is another card in Ice Age that is completely cracked, but so unappealing that it was underrated for an extremely long time.
It was underrated.
Definitely.
Okay.
Because, I'm going to mill cards.
Yeah, sure. That's probably seen.
And it actually turns out that you can have some cards milled when you get single black instant demonic tutor.
Yeah, sure. Sure. It's not that big of a deal.
It's not that, trust me, it ended up being not that big of a deal.
Okay. I picked Necropotence. Now, I picked that most because I didn't play during this time, but there's a lot of it's a very iconic card. And I've heard a lot of stories around it and how busted it was. Dark Ritual Necropotence generally won the game. So it's hard for me to not mention that card as being the best card in the set. And also, it's also my first time and our first time mentioning that card, really, during this episode.
It is completely busted.
Okay, so there you go.
And why are we not, how have we not mentioned Necropotence or Demonic Consultation yet?
Yeah.
It's because they're the two best cards in the set by a lot. And they have nothing to do with anything in the set.
That's also, it doesn't play into the mechanics.
Doesn't hose a color.
Doesn't hose a color. Doesn't refer to ice.
Snow.
Yeah, like anything. Yeah.
Like the names have it's nothing. There's nothing to do with anything.
Okay. That's a really good point, actually. Carnival of Souls Award for worst card in the set. Now, you want us to get into snow and things? Well, fine, we will. My pick is Melting. This card is so bad. For those of you who don't know what Melting does, it is an enchantment. It's 3 and a red, if memory serves. I'm trying to get up my notes here really quick. And it turns...
Yeah, your snow lands, done.
Okay. I like the Gatherer search because if you read the actual card, it says all snow-covered lands become non-snow-covered lands of the same type. The Gatherer search is just all lands are no longer snow. Yeah. We're done with that. Okay, fine. We're done with that. That has no impact on the game, almost in any meaningful way. It's a terrible card. Yeah. Yours is...
Was it Balturian Shaman?
No.
Oh, blue. Snowfall. Oh my God.
Lock
Snowfall. Snowfall is hilarious. It is snow mana flare for cumulative upkeeps that has cumulative upkeep. What happens is you play Snowfall and then you use your islands to upkeep your Snowfall for a little while and then Snowfall goes away.
That's right. Yeah. That's all that it does.
It's just a perpetual mana spending machine.
Yeah.
Doesn't do anything.
It's got nice artwork, though.
Yeah, pretty funny.
I like the little blue dude just hanging out.
Just being like, what is going on?
Yeah. I'm in the
when will this go away?
I'm in the cumulative upkeep lock.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's go to the Aboro Palace in the Clouds. Nope, I lied. Doomblade Award for the best non-rare in the set. We have the same answer. Go ahead.
It's Demonic Consultation.
Of course this is an uncommon. Why would it be rare?
Why would it be rare?
Yeah. You mentioned how they've done a horrible job with rarity in this set. Nothing stands out like
I'm guessing
tutor.
It's because Demonic Tutor was an uncommon.
All right.
And this is aspiring to be Demonic Tutor, even though it's arguably quite a bit more powerful than Demonic Tutor.
Yeah.
It's not the case in Vintage because Vintage is oriented so much around the restricted list.
Yeah.
But when you're talking like Necropotence era, where your deck was a lot of 4-ofs, this card was almost certainly stronger than Demonic Tutor.
Aboro Palace in the Clouds Award now for fun of one of in the set. My answer is Glacial Chasm. The reason this is my answer is because lands in Legacy used to play one copy of it. They don't need to anymore, but I have fond memories of locking people with Glacial Chasm plus Life from the Loam. And so I get to make my award selection however I want to. So that's my fun of one of. Yours?
While we're on the topic of locking people out, Zur's Weirding.
That's correct.
So among cards that are horrendous, reasonably powerful, and legal in a surprising number of formats, Zur's Weirding is probably at the top of the list. Like, this thing, I believe, is legal in Modern, and it's just...
Oh, it's legal.
Yeah. And I think it gets like very, very fringe sideboard play, but no one's ever seen this card. And whenever it shows up, people are like, what on earth is going on right now?
Yeah, there's nothing fun about this card whatsoever.
Yeah,
this
you're
is a
locked
horrible
up
experience.
All right. It's like, everyone put your hands up, put it all out there, put it at the top of your deck.
What you drawing?
Yeah. This card is not weak. This
card's really strong.
Yeah, really strong. I would bet I'm in the top 1 percentile of having played games with and against Zur's Weirding, like number of games involving Zur's Weirding. And again, I've said this about a couple of designs. It says a lot about how wonderful Magic is that even playing a lot with and against Zur's Weirding, I continue to love the game.
You're still here.
Yeah. This is firmly into not a Magic card territory. We're not playing the game I signed up for.
Yeah, that's definitely true. Definitely true. Mana Confluence Award for best vintage cube card in the set. My selection, because I love drafting white, is Swords to Plowshares. Your selection is
Brainstorm.
Okay.
I mean, I don't object to Swords to Plowshares as an answer, but Brainstorm is just a really, really easy first pick. Plays really well with other restricted cards that float around vintage cube, et cetera, et cetera.
All right. Smothering Tide Award for best commander card in the set. EDH Rec told me that it's Brainstorm. So I will select Brainstorm. As you know, not a commander aficionado here in this seat. Neither are you, but your selection is better than mine.
Mystic Remora.
Banger.
Because I've started playing commander with my coworkers out in England when I've traveled out there. And Arthur, if you're listening to this, spikiest guy in the group.
Okay.
Mystic Remora in all your decks.
I like Arthur already.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
thought about you. Thought about you with this answer. Came to mind.
Mystic Remora is very good.
Mystic Arthur.
I have fond memories of watching Jerry Thompson and Rich Shea play with Mystic Remora in Vintage.
Definitely. It was not a competitive zero.
No, it's good. Yeah, no, it's good.
Yeah. Can you take a Mystic Remora out of your deck, play with a card that gets the game over with? That's my request. If you see this,
the answer is no.
It's a formal request.
The Pack Rat Award for best limited card in this set. Do you remember what you picked?
I believe I picked Swords to Plowshares. You
did.
It's just none of the creatures attack. There's not even like Sarah Angels in this set.
I'm gonna do something new with this one.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna source the people at home. A lot of these cards, not all of them, most of these cards are terrible.
Yeah, don't do anything.
They don't do anything at all. Like there's 25 hosers that just don't do anything.
Right.
Most of the creatures stink. And I'm not saying your answer to Swords of Plowshare is bad, but I also don't think it's my friend Polar Kraken either. It could be. Could be though. Pretty big. Pretty big. Pretty big. Dice of Swords. Pretty big though. So if anybody in the comments or at home has any strong thoughts on what the best limited card in this set is, fire away.
I think it could be Sibilant Spirit.
Okay, I remember this card. 6 mana, 5/6 flying. When this thing is declared as an attacker, defending player may draw a card, and flying's huge. That card's probably good. Do you think that card's rare?
Definitely.
It is rare.
It's a fixed Mahamoti.
All right, yeah, it's rare. Right.
Like Demonic Consultation is a fixed Demonic Tutor.
Yeah, something like that.
Sibilant Spirit is a fixed Mahamoti.
Yeah. Okay, sure. Let's go to, now this is my favorite one. Char Rumbler Award for weirdest card in this set. Now, I said Reality Twist only because you said
Naked Singularity.
And so the only reason I have this answer is because before the show, Patrick pointed out to me that these two cards exist, which I did not know. So just go ahead.
So either one of these would be weird on its own and a candidate in almost any set to win weirdest card in the set.
Yes.
The fact that they are in the same set is outrageous. What I have been told, this is one of those things I've heard through the grapevine, but I don't know for sure, was if one of your designs, you came up with a design and then it went to print, there was either a bonus associated with it or royalties or something.
Okay.
So you could get in a spot where it's like, well, which one are we going to do here? Do we want to do the artifact version? Or do we want to do the blue version, which probably has a little bit more play to it, but it's kind of weird that it's not a cycle of all 5.
Mm-hmm.
There's merits to doing both. And we each want our design in there. How do we solve this? We just put them both in there. These are hilarious.
Would you say that these are technically hosers number 26 and 27?
No, because they hose everyone.
Okay. All right.
Like, I guess I would accept an argument for Reality Twist being hose non-blue.
Okay.
But that's not really how you think of a hoser.
Okay.
Naked Singularity is just, hey, did you show up to play Magic? Think again.
Too bad.
Too bad.
Too bad. You don't get to do that.
Although maybe you do, depending on what 2-color deck you have. You might roll the right way. I don't even know how the cards work exactly.
It's true. It's very true.
Yeah, but those two in the same set is just, it's one of my favorite facts of any Magic set ever. And whenever I see either one of those cards, I start laughing.
Okay.
It's so funny to me.
We're going to go blank award for best card name in the set. My selection is Pox. Because that term actually still gets used today for like that style of deck. And so it has stood the test of time. And there are sometimes like Pox decks in Legacy, which are kind of unique and cool. So my answer is Pox. And your answer is?
I just want to step in another card that is extremely strong that we have not mentioned yet because it has nothing to do with anything.
Yeah, Pox.
Yeah,
it's true. It's very true.
Introduces the concept of 1/3, also in an extremely confusing way.
Okay.
Was it Velt?
Dill 3.
Oh, Incinerate.
Yeah.
Yeah, great name.
It's a good name. Conveys what it's doing very well.
Yeah.
Velt is what you selected for the John Avon Award for Best Land Artwork.
Love this. I want to give a shout out to one of the basic mountains in the set. I don't know if Tom Understrand did all of them, but
he did do all 4.
The first mountain there.
Okay.
We can pull the image up on the screen, I'm sure.
Yeah.
That is one of my favorite pieces of art, and it's one of the mountains that I have 20 or 25 copies of.
Oh,
because
cool.
sometimes the fancy strikes me.
Okay. My selection was Attakar Wastes. I like this one the best of the bunch of all the Attakar Wastes that are out there. My runner-up would be Sulphura Springs because of the dude hanging out.
So awesome.
Yeah, just getting a little tummy bath.
Yeah.
Now, when I was in the pre-show with this guy, I was like, we don't have a Realist Fury Award and Tarmogoyf Award, and he said, yeah, we do.
This was the first set that I remember there basically being previews, information about cards before they came out, and something of a pre-release early, we got our hands on this. So yeah, I am calling it right now. The first time we're doing this.
Okay.
Most overhyped card, Deflection.
All
People
right.
were so into this. People wanted it really, really bad. It was very weak, but it was new. It was appealing. It was similar to stuff that people knew was powerful, but different also. People were really into it.
Kind of reads powerful.
Definitely.
Yeah.
You can imagine doing really cool stuff with it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now, your underhyped card.
Necropotence.
Okay. This is the Tarmogoyf Award, by the way. Okay.
No card in the history of Magic has ever been more underrated at release than this one.
Okay.
It received Inquest's weakest card in the set award.
1 star?
1 star. They were like, this is so weak.
I did a little cursory research. We might have some images to bring up on the screen of Inquest giving this the old thumbs down effectively.
There is a good game design lesson here, which is this card is, as we all know, busted, especially because at the same time, Dark Ritual was still common in every set.
Yep.
This card there are so many layers of drawback to it. It's like, okay, so I don't get a draw step anymore. I'm paying life to draw cards. I don't get the cards until the end of the turn.
Yep.
Any card that I don't take gets exiled. It doesn't even go to my graveyard. It's so many, and it turns out, no, this thing is busted. You just draw 7 cards every turn. There's no way to lose once you play this. But it's hard to decipher because there's so many layers of drawback to it. Demonic Consultation, very similar story. Pox, very similar story. These are among the strongest new designs in the set, and they were all criminally underrated for a very long time because there's so many drawbacks nested to them.
I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. Just, we used to make a joke about how bad people are analyzing cards. It all started way back when.
Yeah.
And still today. People are not great at analyzing cards.
This is the first one that's just the average player reading this is just going to check out.
Yeah.
There's so many unappealing things going on.
But this is why I love Magic too, because if everyone analyzed cards all the same way, the game wouldn't be fun.
Totally.
If everyone was just like, this card is clearly good and we're all going to play it, it wouldn't be fun.
I agree. There is a middle ground.
Okay.
Not every card, not all the best cards have to be Planeswalkers and, Baneslayer Angels.
Yes.
There's room for cards that are maybe a little weird or unappealing or spiky to be part of the competitive ecosystem. Totally agree. At the same time, if the card that the writers at Inquest magazine said, this is the worst card in the set, they show up to a tournament and the top 8 is 32 copies of that card, something got lost in translation.
Sure.
You can land it in the middle where it's not just literally the most unattractive cards are all the best cards.
Sure.
And early Magic is defined a lot by that. And Necropotence is the top of the list of that experience.
Well, everybody, with the introduction of the Aurelius Fury Award and Tarmogoyf Award, that means we've got one thing left to do. All right, my friend. What card won the set here in Ice Age for you?
Jester's Cap.
Okay.
Iconic piece of art.
True.
Extremely appealing design.
Okay.
Sort of first in slot for this sort of thing.
Okay.
Even though it was and is very weak, it actually served a purpose at the time, which was attacking restricted cards.
Sure.
Attacking restricted cards is an awesome goal at this point in time in Magic's history, because that is the place where a delta in money or time spent in the game would manifest the most. The person at your card shop who paid the most money, who had been playing the longest, whatever, they had Black Lotus, Ancestral Recall, Time Walk, et cetera, all the restricted cards. So surgically going after restricted cards is a great way to sort of level the playing field at the time and make it feel like using Jester's Cap against your friend who's been playing since Alpha is so much more fun and appealing than playing against your buddy who's also been just playing for a week for you. Awesome. The best.
Polar Kraken. Not close. My winner. That's what started it all, man. I can't not pick Polar Kraken. Is this the most powerful card in the set? No, obviously not. But this is another reason that I love Magic, is because I'm on a school bus when I'm in elementary school and someone just shows me this thing and I'm like, I don't even know what this is. I don't know what this game is. I don't know anything about this. But like, this thing just kind of looks cool because, like, I don't know, it's a card and there's artwork on it and it just kind of looks cool, right? And I don't know anything about like how big an 11/11 is compared to anything, or like the fact that this thing's basically like uncastable and unplayable. None of that matters to me, right? My friend showed me a thing, showed me how to play Magic, and then when I started playing Magic in my friend's basement, I was just like, man, I really want to cast this thing and then try to kill someone with this thing. And I imagine people who started playing Magic way back when, or even people who start playing Magic now and they're new to the game, they don't really know anything about like the competitive landscape and like, velocity or any of the deep concepts of Magic, are just like, I like big creature. And that's just fun.
It is.
Right? It's just charming and it's nice and it just makes you think of like simpler times and just like to play games. And it's like, this was the ultimate Big O for a very long time. And yeah, you had to work a lot for it and maybe you'd only get to attack with it once. That's fine.
One should be enough.
Yeah, ideally one is enough, right? And I don't know. I love this thing. I bought this specifically for this episode so I could hold it up, and I'm going to keep it with me forever, wherever I move to next. And I love this card. So thank you for showing me this on the bus, John Cross.
Do you ever wonder how different your life may have been if instead of Polar Kraken, the first card that John Cross showed you was Red XX and talked about X plus one?
Meteor Shower? Yeah. I'm out. Can we just go back to playing Mega Man X? I'm out, man. Sorry. Okay, so this is the dicey part. We're going to give this set a grade. Should I go first or should you go first?
I'm ready, but I'll leave it to you.
All right, I'm going to go first because yours is a little different than mine.
Okay.
I'm going to I'm going to give Ice Age a 4. Because it's what got me started in Magic. That's number 1. Number 2, I think some of the artwork is really cool. And Polar Kraken. And the introduction to cantrips is actually pretty good. It's still with us today, obviously. It was slow trips then. It's cantrips now. We don't see slow trips anymore. But that's a pretty novel idea conceptually to bring to the forefront. And that's actually really impressive. Now, some of the other stuff they did here, as we mentioned, cumulative upkeep, snowlands, not particularly good. Rarity stuff, not particularly good. But cantrips is something that has lived through Magic ever since this set got printed many, many moons ago. And I think that that is pretty impressive. And I can't imagine Magic without cantrips. So for that reason, I was thinking 3, but I'm going to give it a 4 because there's also some nostalgic feels. Patrick's score is lower than mine.
I'm going to give Ice Age a 2.
Okay, that's your lowest score yet.
Yeah, so going back to Legends, which is another set I'm kind of cool on.
I want to check your Legend score really quickly here. Do you remember what it was?
I want to say it was a 4 or 5.
You gave it a 5.
5.
Okay.
There is a lot of the most powerful cards in the set are pretty unappealing and horrendous to play against and baffling and all of that. But underneath of that is some of the biggest advancements in Magic's design space with Gold and with Legends.
Yes.
2 huge steps forward.
Okay.
Ice Age is arguably worse in terms of how baffling and unappealing are the most powerful cards in the set. Demonic Consultation, just, all right, so sometimes I just kill myself playing with this.
Sure.
Necropotence, Pox, et cetera, et cetera.
Sure, okay.
But instead of having 2 mechanics that move Magic forward, it has 2 horrendous mechanics.
That's true. It's true.
In cumulative upkeep and snow.
I'm going to jump in really quick. There's also 25 hosers.
I mean,
I didn't mention that on my side. There are 25 hosers.
Right. It's just how many of the rares are either inscrutable or look like commons?
Sure.
It's a really, I mean, I know that there's a lot of nostalgia for the set in part because it was a big expansion. It came out kind of right after the revised 4th edition era. Basically anything that wasn't Fallen Empires, people were really excited about. The tone of the world is kind of cool in some respects, but in terms of the actual card file, both the top level of mechanics and the where are we spending our power points, it might be the worst set of all time. I mean, you laugh. Sunset's got to be the worst.
No, I just didn't think we were there yet. I thought for sure, based off of the old version of the Resleevables, that Cold Snap would still hold that award.
Well,
Which it might.
Yeah. I mean, it's this just reprinted the mechanics from this set.
I know.
That is a big part of it.
I know.
Yeah. I mean, Cold Snap is, we should grade differently on 2003 versus 1995. It's
yes.
But this set is really rough. And just the lack of new cards that are just simple to understand, appealing, and reasonably powerful. Like, look at it, Incinerate. It's like, oh, cool. Okay, great. And it actually serves something of a long-term design need, which is we got to pump the brakes on Lightning Bolt a little bit.
Sure.
A little bit over the line. Can we do a little bit weaker, but have some purpose? And it's a cool name. And, the bursting into flames is kind of a cool concept inside of a ice and snow-driven world. Great stuff. Where are the other Incinerates?
Sure.
Why is that the only card I can point to that's like new and fun?
Sure.
A really, really rough set.
I'm going to leave my score as a 4.
Yeah.
I was thinking about changing it back to a 3. I'm going to leave it as a 4 because of nostalgia. It's not a good set.
If I was in your position, Polar Kraken is the floor is a 4.
Okay.
That's fine.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't have the same attachment to Polar Kraken that you do.
Okay, so on our way out the door here. Oh no! Oh, I dropped one. Here, you can have.
We do have 2.
Yeah, we do have 2 of these. Okay, I found it. We got our Crack-A-Back coming after this episode goes up, maybe a day or so afterward. Who knows? You can find that on our YouTube page if you're a patron. In our $10 or $25 tier, you can of course win the pack that we don't open. It's randomly given away, as we've done with the Dark and all those packs of Fallen Empires. We'll be doing with this, and will also be doing. Oh, yeah. With these.
Mm-hmm.
Coming up next, Chronicles.
Oh, yeah.
Which is, well,
A lot of heat on this stuff. This was a huge deal for me as a player at the time.
so this is going to be, that episode is going to be like all you.
Uh-huh.
It's because you were there during the time. It's all reprints, but reprints, I guess what I would say is reprints with purpose.
Yeah.
Is what I would say. So these will also do a crack-a-pack for as well. And someone's going to get a nice pack of Chronicles too, which I love for someone out there who's, again, a member of our Patreon $10 and $25 tier. And if you haven't been to our Patreon before, you can head over to patreon.com/resleevables and find a tier that works for you. We either will get you some lands that are signed, a Resleevable sticker, Resleevables playmat, all this other stuff. Again, head over to patreon.com/theresleevables and find a tier that works for you. If you're not watching this on Patreon, that means you're watching it on YouTube, and we thank you for that. And we ask, if you can, to like, subscribe, and share. And also you can leave a comment if you'd like as well for the old algorithm if you've enjoyed what you've watched. We, of course, have previous episodes of the other sets that have come out before Ice Age as well, like Alpha, Beta, and Unlimited, and the Dark, and everything else, before we do move forward with Chronicles and other sets in the future. Last but certainly not least is you can follow us on Twitter if you are a Twitter user. There is no Threads account just yet. Our Twitter is @theresleevables. A nice trip down memory lane here with Ice Age and Polar Kraken, my boy. So, for one last time, for Patrick Sullivan and for Polar Kraken, I am Cedric Phillips with blue hair, not because of Ice Age. We'll see you next time for Chronicles.
Choi.
Choi.
Do you know what killed the dinosaurs? The Ice Age! Take one.
What an all-timer that movie is.
All-timer.
Yeah.
The Ice Age!
This is where I have to check to see how I open the show again, but I think I remember. Nope, I don't. I never do. I never remember how I open the show. That's fucking embarrassing. I always have to go look. Shut up. There it is. Found it. Same every time. My idiot brain doesn't remember anything. Red light, red light, red light. That's red. Okay, here we go. Ice Age, take 1 of 1.